Chapter 533. The weather in the northern citadel was very good. The sun was shining brightly. Unknowingly, it was already the month of May. The gentle sunlight was very comfortable on the ground. Sulen had nothing to do today, so he took Hathaway, Alex, Karina, Chrissy, Phyllis, Xanthi, and his two personal maids for a picnic. Alex and Chrissy were barbecuing on the grass. Hathaway was chatting with Xanthi and Phyllis. Sulen was lying on Xanthi's soft thighs, taking a nap and enjoying the massage from her soft little hands. Karina was setting up the tableware, and the two maids were assisting everyone. Master. I'm done. Do you want to try it? It's delicious. Chrissy said, waving her arms. Sulen waved his hand. He didn't want to be a guinea pig. The barbecue smelled delicious, mainly because of the seasonings made by Frodo. Speaking of which, Frodo's seasonings were getting richer and richer. Even Sulen hadn't seen many of them before. It had to be said that when it came to enjoying life, if the halflings were second, they would be first. Sulen had made all the seasonings he knew in his previous life. Even if he couldn't find the same ones, he would find some that tasted similar. Master, do you want to try it? It's delicious. Chrissy didn't give up. She took the barbecue directly to Sulen. She looked at Sulen with her big eyes. After all, what bad intentions could a succubus have? Among the women in the northern citadel, Hathaway liked to study magic. When she had nothing to do, she would sit on the balcony and make a cup of tea and enjoy the sunshine. Chrissy liked to raise pets. Her three-headed dog was now the size of a calf. Alex liked to read books, not magic books, but fairy tales and travel books. Phyllis liked to make some snacks. Xanthi liked to follow Phyllis. Perhaps because they were both nobles, the two of them liked to have afternoon tea together. Karina often taught the drows all kinds of tricks. The two maids liked to eat sweets. Of course, they also liked to make delicious food. Sulen basically didn't care about their little hobbies. As the king of Beifong Principality and the owner of this place, he was very easy to talk to. The aroma of barbecued meat filled the air. The little succubus happily raised the meat and handed it to Sulen, looking at him expectantly. Looking at Chris's expression, Sulen couldn't refuse it directly, so he took it and took a bite. It tastes good. Hee, it seems that I have a talent for cooking. The little succubus said happily. So you're using me as a guinea pig? Sulen pretended to be angry. He then reached out and knocked on Chris's head. Not bad. Let me try it too. Hathaway stretched and grabbed a skewer of barbecued meat to taste. It's a little overcooked. It's totally the seasoning for roasted Frodo. But it's the first time I can roast it like this. It's worth encouraging. A huge black shadow suddenly fell from the sky. Hathaway reacted quickly and instantly raised an energy shield around it. As soon as the shield was raised, a large cloud of dust and grass rushed over and was blocked by the shield. Onyx Vaya, you did it on purpose. Be careful, or I'll hang you up and beat you. Sulen looked at the huge creature that fell from the sky with disgust. It was the red dragon girl. With a flash of light, the red dragon's huge body disappeared in an instant and was replaced by a red-haired girl. It was Onyx Vaya. Master, I didn't do it on purpose. The little red dragon firmly refused to admit it and ran to Chris to ask for food. This red dragon only knew how to sleep all day long. Often, she would sleep for several days at a time. When she woke up, she would look for food everywhere. Usually, she was nowhere to be seen, so Sulen didn't even have time to ride her. As a mount, you sleep all day long and don't even carry your master. Don't you think that's very dereliction of duty? Sulen said to the little female dragon. At this time, Onyx Vaya bit the skewer of barbecued meat and gently stroked it in her mouth. The shiny skewer was pulled out. Her movements were very practiced, and she didn't care about her image at all. Master, I'm close to adulthood now. I need to rest and sleep to grow. How can you bear to let a young dragon like me work? Onyx Vaya said as she ate the skewer. Close to adulthood. Sulen was slightly taken aback. A dragon's adulthood didn't have to be 100 years. In fact, this was just a rough number. It depended on the dragon's nutrition and development. If they lived in an area with abundant elements and abundant food for a long time, they would enter adulthood a few years earlier. Yes, yes, yes. Master, I'm about to reach adulthood. Are you going to prepare a gift for me? Onyx Vaya said shamelessly. Sulen glanced at her and didn't say anything. Master, as a dragon who is about to reach adulthood, and the most powerful red dragon among the Pentashade dragons, if I go out and meet other people, how can I have the nerve to say hello to them? Besides, this will weaken your reputation, won't it? Onyx Vaya said with a flattering face, but if she could hide the glimmer of gold coins in her eyes, the effect would be better. Ha! Sulen smiled and didn't say anything. Little female dragon, I'm afraid you don't know how much money you owe. The number of treasures in the floating space tower's treasury doesn't match up. Looking at Sulen's eyes, Onyx Vaya was quickly defeated, and then whispered, so stingy. You're so rich, but you're not willing to help a poor dragon like me. I'm so sad. After the picnic, Sulen returned to the study, and a guard hurried over. Your Majesty, according to the adventurer's report, something suddenly happened outside North City. What happened? Sulen's heart skipped a beat. The guard hesitated and said slowly, recently, adventurers often report that some strange magic beasts have appeared in the north of North City. They look a bit like ordinary beasts, but there are some changes in their appearance. Their eyes are red and they are very aggressive. They don't just attack humans, they don't even let their own kind go. At first, we didn't pay attention to this. We just thought it was a magic beast that had evolved and transformed. But later, we found that many adventurers reported that they had encountered such monsters, and then we discovered the abnormality. The number of these mutant monsters is no less than that of ordinary beasts. This is normal. The number of magic beasts is far less than that of ordinary beasts, but there is a large-scale transformation of beasts here. After discovering this situation, we sent people to investigate, and the data has been collected. Please take a look. Chapter 534. Sulen took a sheepskin scroll and opened it. It was a map of the northern city with some lines drawn on it. Your Majesty, look at this. This is the pine forest north of the city. In the past month, we've found 5 mutated monsters in this forest, and the number is still rising. Further north, near the Sierra de Lotus, there are even more mutated monsters. We've been giving out quests for adventurers to find the cause, but we haven't found anything. The number of mutated monsters is still rising. Hearing the guard's report, Su Luan's expression turned serious. Although these mutated monsters hadn't attacked the city yet, if their numbers continued to increase, it wouldn't be long before these monsters overran the city, and even northern Garrison City would be affected. Sulen looked at the statistics and frowned. In just a month or two, the number of mutated monsters had reached 300. The number that hadn't been counted was probably even higher. The northern city's soldiers were strong, and they often went out to clean up the monsters. If it were any other noble's territory, they might not be able to hold on. Is it because of the elemental tide? Hathaway asked softly. Sulen put down the document and said uncertainly, I'm not sure. Did something like this happen when the elemental tide came in the past? By the way, are these mutated monsters only in the northern city, or are they everywhere in the continent? Sulen ordered the guard, send someone to ask around. See if Maple City and Mirror Lake City have seen these things. Yes, Your Majesty. The guard bowed and left in a hurry. The elemental tide is getting stronger and stronger. The arrival of the elemental tide is a good thing for us, but it's also an opportunity for other species. This is most likely related to the elemental tide. By the way, are there any ancient ruins around here? Hathaway suddenly asked. I don't know about that, Sulen looked at Hathaway strangely. Why are you suddenly asking about this today? Many ancient ruins have some terrifying monsters sealed away. Some were used by the ancient arcana masters for research purposes, while others were sealed away because they were too dangerous and difficult to kill. Normally, these things don't have much of an effect. With the passage of time, many creatures will die of exhaustion in the seal. However, there are also some long-lived creatures or monsters with abilities similar to life hiding that will become active again due to the arrival of the elemental tide. If the ancient seal is damaged, it might not be able to suppress the monsters. If the monster's power leaks out, it might lead to a situation like this, Hathaway said as she adjusted her gold-rimmed glasses. Sulen looked rather awful. I think that's very likely. After all, we've inherited a mysterious realm left by the ancient arcanists. Since there's a mysterious realm here, it's very likely that there's an ancient ruin here. Oh right, Adept Locke and I also reinforced an ancient seal together. Sulen's face changed slightly. He immediately thought, no, I need to arrange people to search the surroundings carefully. Also, ask the city hall to issue a mission to those adventurers. Guards, guards! Sulen yelled outside the door. Soon, 2 guards hurried in. Your Majesty, what are your orders? The 2 guards asked respectfully. Send someone to the city hall and ask them to search for the ruins around here. Also, issue a mission to those adventurers. Sulen lowered his voice. Yes, Your Majesty. The 2 guards bowed and quickly left. Hathaway quietly watched Sulen give out his orders. When he was done, she stood up and said, how about I try using astrology? No, if you fail, you'll suffer a backlash. Sulen rejected without thinking. Hathaway smiled. It's fine. I'm a legendary wizard now. Even if I suffer a backlash, it won't do anything to me. Plus, I still have you, right? That won't do. Sulen shook his head. Hathaway walked up to him and poked his head. If we don't use astrology, how long will it take for those adventurers and soldiers to find it? Also, I've just done some research. The number of mutated monsters is constantly increasing. If we don't get rid of them as soon as possible, we'll be in big trouble. Big trouble? What big trouble? Let's see how I'll deal with them. Sulen snorted. If you don't agree, I'll use it secretly. You'll be sad if I get hurt. Hathaway said when she saw Sulen's reaction. You. Sulen glared at Hathaway. He knew he had to agree, so he nodded. Alright, you can use astrology, but I have to be by your side. If there's any danger, you have to stop the spell immediately. Okay. Hathaway agreed and pulled Sulen to the astrology platform. I've made a divination crystal on the astrology platform. It can reduce the damage caused by the backlash. Basically, there won't be any problems. Hathaway said as she tidied up her things. As a northern witch, she had mastered divination spells. The northern witches were proficient in divination spells, but Sulen didn't let her use them because he was worried about Hathaway. Fate was a very strange thing, and so was the future. Although the divination spells could see some fragments of the future was not always the same. Using this kind of spell often would cause the line of fate to become chaotic. Just like a good swimmer who was addicted to cheating, using the divination spells recklessly would eventually lead to the fetters of fate. Then, it would be troublesome. At the top of the astrology platform, Hathaway's figure was quietly suspended in the air. Her elegant long hair was dancing in the wind, and a beautifully made crystal ball was suspended in front of her. At this time, a powerful wave of magic came from the crystal ball, and the smell of concentration incense in the whole room became stronger. Sulen looked at Hathaway quietly and didn't dare to disturb her. She was now preparing for the divination ceremony. This kind of spell usually took a long time to prepare. The more difficult it was, the longer it would take. Some even required the cooperation of other wizards to hold a grand ceremony. Under the silver moonlight, Hathaway's figure seemed to be covered with a layer of silver gauze. The Lady of Silvermoon also mastered part of the divination priesthood, and many divination spells were performed with the help of the Lady of Silvermoon. At this time, Hathaway's figure suddenly trembled, and then she suddenly opened her eyes. There was a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. Chapter 535. Crack. A light sound was heard, and a crack appeared on the crystal ball that was floating in front of her. Then, with a bang, this high-grade magic item that was worth tens of thousands of gold coins was shattered into countless pieces. Following the shattering of the crystal ball, a strange and cold aura instantly appeared on the astrology platform. Indistinct howls echoed in the surroundings, and countless shadows appeared. The surrounding space distorted, and a powerful evil intent instantly appeared, pouncing towards Hathaway. At this moment, Sullen's body flashed, and he appeared beside Hathaway. He stretched out his arms and grabbed her slender waist. Then, a dazzling lightning shot out from his eyes. Get lost. The entire astrology platform seemed to have been struck by a bolt of lightning, and the entire space lit up. In the next second, countless vengeful spirits wailed and scattered in all directions. Countless evil thoughts dissipated in an instant, and at the same time, the eerie feeling also dissipated. How are you? Are your injuries serious? Su-Len landed with Hathaway in his arms. With a flash of light, a green energy full of life appeared in his hand, and it instantly merged with Hathaway's body. Physical healing. As the green energy merged with her body, Hathaway's injuries began to improve. This time, Hathaway's injuries were not serious. The main thing was that her spirit was damaged, and she looked a little sluggish. Fortunately, she was now a legendary wizard, and her soul was strong, so her injuries were not serious. Su-Len let out a sigh of relief. I shouldn't have let you use this astrology spell. I didn't expect you to be injured. I'm fine. Hathaway shook her head. The spell had healed her injuries, but her spirit still needed to recover. She shook her head and said, I used the astrology spell to find the source of the mutated monsters. It was a little troublesome, but I still found it. I saw a ruin in the astrology spell. It should be an ancient ruin. Also, a world shrouded in blood and evil aura. That should be the spiritual light of the sealed monster. It didn't die. Instead, it used the power of the elemental tide to revive itself. The ancient formation that originally sealed it has been severely damaged. According to the predictions of astrology, it will completely break the seal in 2 months at most and come out again. We have to deal with it as soon as possible. Otherwise, the entire northern garrison city will be contaminated by this evil energy, and all our efforts will be in vain. A world shrouded in bloody light and evil aura. Could it be the evil god? Su-Len was a little confused. Prophecy spells were very annoying. Sometimes, they wouldn't tell you the answer. Instead, they would give you some hints and let you guess. Therefore, wizards who were good at prophecy spells were also very good at solving puzzles. I remember the location of the ruins. It's about 30 miles northeast of the city, Hathaway continued. You should rest and recuperate first. I'll send someone to investigate the ruins, Su-Len said directly. When the time comes, I'll need your help to deal with that thing. Don't worry. My injuries aren't serious this time. It just looks a little scary. In reality, more than 90% of the backlash was blocked by the crystal ball. Hathaway said, smiling. You still need to rest and recover. Su-Len glared at her. All right. Don't be in a hurry to take action once you find the location. The energy of this monster is very radioactive. Those mutated beasts are actually ordinary beasts. They've only mutated after being contaminated by this monster's energy, Hathaway said. Also, don't let anyone below Tier 3 get close. Otherwise, they'll be infected by the monster's energy. I'll tell them to be careful, Su-Len said, nodding. Pmichum. My injuries will recover in about 2 days. When the time comes, we'll work together and get rid of this monster once and for all. Hathaway said, nodding. Okay. Sulen nodded in agreement. After learning the truth, Sulen was no longer in a hurry. However, he still needed to get rid of those mutated beasts first. The sun shone brightly as Sulen led a group of soldiers to the outskirts of northern Garrison City. Very quickly, he discovered a strange aura. Sulen had already cleared out the outskirts of northern Garrison City many times. It was a forbidden area for monsters. Normally, no monster would be willing to approach it. The strange aura that appeared now was most likely the work of a mutated beast. A flash of light enveloped Sulen's body. A second later, he appeared in a forest. A monster that looked like a ferocious wolf appeared before him. However, this ferocious wolf had some disgusting tumors on its back. One of the tumors even had a tentacle. Its originally ferocious fangs had become even more frightening. The ferocious wolf's eyes were blood red, and its aura became violent and chaotic. Moreover, there was also an aura of madness and death mixed in with its aura. Upon seeing Sulen, the ferocious wolf became even more violent. With a furious roar, it pounced on Sulen. It seems that this aura has completely affected its mind. Even its instincts have been distorted. Looking at the ferocious wolf that pounced on him, Sulen did not take it to heart. With his strength, even if he released a little bit of his aura, it would still be very dangerous to wild beasts, ferocious beasts, and even demonic beasts. As long as they sensed danger, they would avoid it from afar. Why would they take the initiative to attack? Now that this ferocious wolf dared to attack him, it seemed that it had completely lost its mind. Before the ferocious wolf could get close to Sulen, it let out a shrill scream. Then, a bolt of lightning instantly struck the ferocious wolf. As the lightning flashed, the ferocious wolf fell directly to the ground. Then, it was turned into charcoal by the powerful lightning power. After the ferocious wolf died, the aura that originally surrounded the ferocious wolf was also swept away by the lightning. Huh! Sulen seemed to have discovered something. His figure suddenly disappeared. More than 10 kilometers away. The thick smell of blood filled the air. In the dark forest, a massacre seemed to have just ended. When Sulen's figure suddenly appeared here, a gust of wind suddenly blew. Then, a black shadow pounced on him. Bang! As soon as the black shadow got close to Sulen, it was kicked away. Its body flew backward at a faster speed than before. The huge force caused a crack to appear on the stone. However, the next moment, the black shadow in front of him pounced on him again. Its sharp claws drew a cold light. However, before it could attack Sulen, it was instantly hit by a bolt of lightning from the sky. Its entire body was paralyzed by the lightning and could not move. Claw Demon. Sulen's eyes narrowed. He instantly recognized that the monster in front of him was a kind of abyssal demon. Chapter 536. Demon? Sulen said with a cold expression, now that something has happened, all sorts of monsters and serpents dare to come and cause trouble. Dominate demon. A light flashed, and the low-level demon's eyes instantly glazed over. After controlling the demon, Sulen casually cast a spell and forcibly read its recent memories. Sulen said with an ugly expression, the dimensional barrier has weakened. The dimensional barrier was a protective layer in the main material world, half-planes, and other planes. With this protective layer, the demons from the abyss would find it difficult to enter this world. The stronger the dimensional barrier, the more difficult it would be to enter. Even if the demons came to the main material world, their power would be suppressed. This invisible protective barrier mainly targeted the existence of the gods. If the energy level was too high, it would be naturally rejected when entering the material plane. This was also the main reason why the gods and demon lords could not descend into the world. In order to avoid this rule, most of the gods used divine power to enter the material plane, while the demons used soul projection. Sulen had just received news from the demon that the dimensional barrier of this world had begun to weaken. This was not good news. Neither the demons from the abyss nor the devils from Bator would give up the opportunity to harvest the soul crystals in the main material world. The arrival of the elemental tide brought a lot of benefits, but also a crisis. The world of demons belonged to the lower planes, including the abyss, Bator, and the dark abyss. It was usually rich in negative energy, but it was not too close to the death god's kingdom. The Styx River passed through all the lower planes and finally flowed into the death god's kingdom. In the multiverse, the worst thing demons and devils did was to steal souls from the Styx River. The water of the Styx River was not something that anyone could touch. If one dared to touch the water of the Styx River directly with their physical body, they would be eroded by the water of the Styx River. Even the gods did not dare to touch the water of the Styx River lightly. In the multiverse, only the death god could bathe in the water of the Styx River. The water of the Styx River had many strange abilities. The most frightening thing about it was that it could erase anyone's memories. This was because the water of the Styx River was originally used to cleanse souls. After erasing the memories of the soul, it could be reincarnated through the death god. Without the interference of the gods, the cycle of life and death was dominated by the origin sea. Souls would quickly melt after entering the origin sea, and the birth of life would absorb energy from the origin sea. At the same time, the source sea was the birthplace of all laws. When a life form ascended to legend, their soul would have a chance to approach the source sea to comprehend the laws. The origin sea was a special plane. No, it shouldn't be called a plane. It was a special space in the universe that was connected to all planes. Sorcerers believed that the origin sea was the source of life and energy in the multiverse. All souls of life, including the ancient gods, were born from the origin sea. This was the beginning and the end of the universe. At the same time, the source sea was also a very dangerous place. It was a place where life was reincarnated. All souls that entered this place would be completely crushed like a grinder. This reincarnation method was to crush all souls into countless tiny fragments and then reconstruct them randomly. The reincarnation presided over by the death god was much simpler. The death god would erase all the memories of the souls and send them back to reincarnation. Of course, because there were too many souls, the death god would also send most of them to the origin sea. The real task of the death god was to ensure the normal cycle of death and protect the souls from being stolen or damaged by others. Demons and devils would take the risk to enter the Styx River to steal souls, but now that the elemental tide had arrived and the spatial barrier of the material plane had weakened, those demons would not let go of such a good opportunity. Compared to stealing souls in the Styx River, the difficulty and danger of going to the material plane to collect souls were much lower. Su Len cleaned up the surroundings of his territory and returned to the astrology platform. He was waiting for Hathaway to recover, and at the same time, he was waiting for news about the ruins. The Northern Wilderness. In the wilderness, a group of vigilant adventurers was hurrying along. Carlos was wearing a fine chainmail and holding a curved sword in his hand, clearing the path in front. As the sharp curved sword was swung rapidly, the surrounding bushes and weeds were quickly cut down, clearing a barely passable path. Surprisingly, there were a few bald men in this group. Judging from their attire, they should be traveling monks. Since the establishment of the Northern Wilderness, many monks had traveled through this place to travel to the wilderness. Opening a path in this kind of wilderness was very tiring, and they had to be alert at all times. The people in charge of opening the path took turns. Soon, Carlos was replaced by another warrior. Carlos put away his weapon and took out a sheepskin scroll to check. Although paper was very popular now, some important documents were still written with sheepskin in the wilderness. Because of the harsh environment in the wilderness, paper was too easily damaged. "It should be around here," Carlos said as he flipped the scroll. The scroll was a topographic map of the Northern Wilderness. After Hathaway saw the ruins with her prophecy, Su Len had marked the general location of the ruins and some of the main features of the ruins and distributed it to the mercenaries who accepted the mission. "Stay alert. We're close to the ruins. The number of mutated monsters we've encountered along the way has obviously decreased, but don't be careless. I don't want to give your compensation to your wives. Ha, don't worry, boss. We'll be careful. Boss, I won't give you the chance. The others in the group all shouted. The originally gloomy group instantly became lively. After seeing the status of the group, Carlos secretly sighed in relief. Traveling for a long time in the wilderness would make people feel irritated and tired, but it seemed like the group was in good condition. Look over there. Someone exclaimed. When the others in the group looked up, they all exclaimed. Not far away, a severely weathered broken stone pillar appeared in the weeds. Ruins. We found the ruins. We're rich. Ha, we're rich. I can consider retiring when I go back, buy a few acres of land, buy a manor, and become a manor owner. After that, the adventurers began to clear away the surrounding weeds and shrubs. As the weeds were cleared away, more and more ruins appeared before their eyes. There were broken stone pillars, heavily weathered statues, and stones that had long been indistinguishable. Everything here showed that this was a ruin that had existed for a long time. Chapter 537. Carlos looked around. Only a corner of the ruins in front of him could be seen, and most of it seemed to be hidden. There were bushes and lush trees all around. Other than the part they found, there were no other ruins. He had encountered this situation before. Some ruins were protected by a layer of magic, and only by breaking this layer of magic could they enter. It was best to have the help of a spellcaster, or they would not even be able to enter. Some ruins were also protected by magic, but it seemed that the magic had been damaged due to the passage of time or some other reason. These ruins would only appear at a specific time, and when the time passed, they would be covered by magic again. Some ruins were partially exposed, and the other parts were still covered by magic. Of course, most of the ruins were not protected by magic at all, but the valuable things in these ruins had been cleaned out by countless adventurers. There were also some that were buried and needed to be excavated. There were many such ruins in the northern wastelands and deserts, but they were not easy to find. Obviously, the outer layer of magic of the ruins in front of them was not completely destroyed. Carlos was a little disappointed. He had originally wanted to search the secret realm when he received the mission from the city hall. It should be known that the wizards would give a good reward if they sold the things in good condition in the secret realm. He did not pay much attention to the city hall's warning that the ruins were dangerous and that they would report it immediately after discovering it. In his opinion, the city hall wanted to scare them because they wanted the things in the ruins. As for the dangers in the ruins, these adventurers knew very well that as long as they were careful, there would not be any big problems. After all, the magic equipment here had basically lost its effectiveness after thousands of years. Be careful. A cry of alarm sounded. All of a sudden, a dense fog appeared in the surroundings and spread rapidly. In the fog, some black shadows quickly pounced on them. The sudden change caught these adventurers off guard, and a few of them were killed directly before they could react. It's a mutant monster, everyone be careful. Quick, get close. Be careful of their sneak attack. Under the cover of the fog, the mutant monsters quickly launched attacks, constantly attacking the adventurers. In a short time, the situation became very dangerous. Be careful, retreat. Carlos roared and rushed forward. The two scimitars in his hands exuded a chilling aura. He waved them like a windmill and slashed at the mutant monster. Blood flew everywhere as a howl sounded out. Following this, countless saber lights flashed out, and 10 or so gashes appeared on the mutated monster's body, and one of its claws was cut off. Carlos had no intention of letting it go. His figure flashed and rushed up again. A sharp blade light flashed, and the mutated monster's huge head was chopped off. Only then did Carlos breathe a sigh of relief. Even he could not sustain such a high-intensity outburst for a short period of time. Although he had successfully killed one of the mutated monsters, the situation he was facing did not improve at all. More and more mutated monsters were rushing over from the fog. Let's go. Seeing this, Carlos's expression changed greatly, and he immediately shouted for retreat. The surrounding adventurers did not hesitate and immediately retreated. Blazing sun style. A warrior monk clasped his hands together, and in the next second, a dazzling flame erupted from his body. A violent explosion sounded out, and the scorching flames were filled with a holy aura. A mutated monster was directly sent flying, and the flames continued to burn its body. Black blood slowly seeped out of its head and ears. Evidently, it was not going to survive. The surrounding fog also dispersed a little. Slash. Another warrior heavily slashed down, killing a mutated monster. Then, without taking a breather, he immediately rushed out. Charge! A dwarf covered in steel armor rode a strong male goat and rushed out, waving the axe in his hand. A few adventurers immediately followed. Expeditious steps. Gale potion. Seeing that the situation was urgent, Carlos directly opened a bottle of light red potion and had the dwarf gulp it down. A bitter taste instantly filled his mouth, and a powerful force instantly entered his body. Carlos's originally very fast speed once again rose to another level. The scimitar in his hand danced even faster, and the charging mutated monster was directly cut into 10 or so pieces. There were a lot of mutated monsters in the fog. They had a total of 18 people in this operation, including 2 warrior monks, a dwarf ram knight, 3 rogues, 2 rangers, and 5 warriors. Although the city hall indicated that the danger level of this mission was 5 stars, they did not take it to heart. Although these people were few, the whole team was made up of experienced adventurers. Even if they faced enemies more than 3 times their number, they could easily deal with them. But this time, the number of enemies was too much. You guys retreat first. I'll cover the rear. Another warrior monk saw that the situation was urgent. If they did not escape as soon as possible, they would probably be completely surrounded and killed here. Sunlight burst. Phoenix flame. A dazzling light burst out in an instant, and then infinite flames appeared from his body, instantly turning into a circle of flames that rushed in all directions. Wherever it passed, all the fog dissipated, and even the mutated monsters hiding in the fog were burned to ashes. The surrounding bushes and weeds were cleared in an instant. The figure of the warrior monk suddenly soared into the air, kicking out a series of afterimages in midair. Then, the gravel flew out like a cannonball. The chi energy attached to the gravel caused cracks to appear on the gravel tens of meters away. Although those mutated monsters were strong, several of them were killed in an instant under the warrior monk's attack, and a path was opened at once. Let's go. Seeing the passage that appeared, the surrounding adventurers did not hesitate at all. They waved their swords and rushed directly to the gap. In the face of crisis, these people burst out with powerful strength in an instant. Diamond body. After seeing everyone rushing up, the warrior monk did not dare to delay. Although the strength of a mutated monster was not strong, a large number of them could still exhaust him here. Wind step. The warrior monk shouted in a low voice, and his body was like a tornado, rushing out in an instant. The surrounding mutated monsters could not stop him at all. The warrior monk stepped on these mutated monsters with the tip of his foot. Let's go. The warrior monk's figure shot out from the crowd, and he said with a dignified expression, let's leave here first. Find a safe place to inform Northern Town City. The problem here is not something we can solve. Chapter 538. Carlos was very excited. Although the battle was short, they had suffered a lot of casualties. He had no time to regret it. He had to send the news back as soon as possible. His brothers had suffered a lot of casualties, and they needed a lot of money as compensation. The battle just now had caused quite a commotion. It was very likely that other adventurers would notice them. Whoever completed the quest first would get all the rewards. If they were late, they might not even get a single copper coin. We need to hurry. We can't let others get ahead of us. Carlos said as he rubbed his head. No matter what, we have to be the first to send the news back. We have suffered a lot this time. Many of our brothers have died. We need this money to send them back as compensation. This is the only thing we can do to help them. Boss, we know what to do. A warrior said. I won't say anything else. Let's go. Carlos said as he ran towards the northern city. The others looked at each other and followed closely behind. North Wind Tower. Sulen had resumed his daily routine. He would patrol the city or Maple City every day and draw some blueprints for the city. In the afternoon, he would read books and learn all kinds of magic knowledge. As a wizard, Sulen needed to learn a lot of knowledge. Luckily, he had the ability, Sage, which allowed him to learn very quickly. Otherwise, the knowledge would be enough to give him a headache. The construction of Maple City had been completed. It was now the gateway to the west of the Duchy of North Wind. All the caravans heading to the northern city would go through here. It was a lot safer for caravans to go through Maple City. With the existence of Maple City, the number of bandits and monsters in the wilderness had decreased a lot. At the same time, the road between Maple City and the northern city had been repaired, so it was a lot easier to travel. The road from Northern Town City to Maple City was one of the main roads in Northern Town City. It was more than 50 kilometers long and 4 meters wide. It was wide enough for 2 carriages to travel side by side. The entire road was paved with pebbles. The middle of the road was slightly arched. Camel beasts pulled stone rollers back and forth to grind the pebbles. Even on a rainy day, there would be no puddles or mud on the road. This road was already better than 99% of the roads in other countries. In order to repair this official road, Sulen had used more than 50,000 slaves of all kinds and spent half a year to complete it. This kind of official road was better than other countries in this era. Compared to his previous life, not to mention the main roads in the city, even the roads in the countryside could not compare. In addition to these, Sulen continued to accumulate all kinds of construction materials, preparing to send these things to Deepwater City. At the same time, the port in North Town City was being expanded. If the trade channel was opened, the small port in North Town City would not be enough. Sulen had people expand the port by 10 times and added several docks for loading and unloading goods. At the same time, the road leading to the port was being widened and repaired. Sulen attached great importance to this new city. It was likely to be another important source of income for North Town City. In addition to the docks at the port, the shipyard in North Town City also needed to be expanded. Sulen had moved part of the shipyard to Deepwater City, but there also needed to be a shipyard in North Town City. The shipyard in Deepwater City built seagoing ships. The requirements for the ships were very high, and the keel had to be strong. The shipyard in North Town City mainly built inland ships. There was a big difference between inland ships and seagoing ships. The most important thing was that inland ships had flat bottoms, while seagoing ships had V-shaped bottoms. Inland ships could carry more goods because of the flat bottoms, but they were less stable and could easily capsize in big waves. Of course, it was impossible for ships to encounter big waves like the ones in the sea. Seagoing ships had to sail in the sea, and the waves in the sea were completely incomparable to those in inland rivers. The mountain-like waves could easily overturn and smash inland ships. Therefore, in order to stabilize the ship, seagoing ships had to use V-shaped bottoms. At the same time, the ship had to be very strong. Otherwise, it would fall apart when the waves came. Under normal circumstances, seagoing ships would not enter inland rivers. Seagoing ships were too deep in the water, and inland rivers were too shallow. They could easily hit rocks if they were not careful. North Town City had been recruiting workers from Florence during this time, and they had a lot of craftsmen. Although a group was sent to Deepwater City, it was not difficult for the rest to build a shipyard. In addition to these things in North Town City, Sulen also needed to deal with things in the secret plane. Now, the secret plane had the obsidian factory, the golem factory, the ecological park, the plantation area, the crystal beast breeding area, the central square, under repair, the residential area, the botanical garden, with natural oaks, and so on. It would definitely need to be built in the future, and the location of the secret plane had to be planned. At the same time, Su Len also needed to think about how to move the secret plane to the floating city in the future and open up a half-plane. Milky Way. Check the structure of the energy transmission network of the secret plane. See if it meets the requirements and if there are any areas that can be optimized. Su Len put down the pen in his hand and looked at the dense underground energy transmission network in front of him. He fell into deep thought. The energy source of the secret plane was in the central area. There was a large elemental pool here, so there must be a perfect energy transmission pipeline to supply energy to other places. Efficiency must be considered in this design. If the energy transmission was too wasteful, it would put a burden on the elemental pool. As for the other elemental pool, it was responsible for supplying energy to the golem factory. Start calculating. A series of data streams appeared, and Milky Way started calculating the current energy transmission network of the secret plane. She also marked the location of the central crystal and made modifications to it. Knock, knock, knock. At this time, there was a rush of knocking on the door. Su Len frowned and opened the door to the astrology platform. Alex's excited voice came through. Su Len, news from the city hall. They found the ruins. A group of adventurers found the ruins you are looking for. There are a lot of mutant monsters around the ruins. We may be in for a tough battle. Mutant monsters. Su Luen was shocked. He stopped Milky Way's calculations and asked, "You found the ancient ruin? How intact are the ruins?" "The adventurers haven't gone in yet. There are mutant monsters guarding outside the ruins. There is also a layer of magic outside the ruins that hasn't lost its effect. Only a small part of it has appeared outside. Tell the adventurers that the ruins they found are very damaged." Chapter 539. There's also magic protection. No wonder it hasn't been discovered for so long. It seems that there's still something in this ancient ruin. Sullen's eyes lit up when he heard that there was magic protection. If there was magic protection, it meant that no one had entered the ruin for thousands of years. It was likely that there were many things left behind by the ancient arcanists. If they could find some precious information, it would be a big gain. I don't need to tell you how valuable an undamaged ruin is. Let's go, Alex said impatiently. We still have to be careful. There's a powerful monster in there. Su Len waved his hand. He wasn't impulsive. Besides, many things in the unexcavated ancient ruins could be traced back to the era of the Arcane Empire. Hathaway was the one who had the deepest understanding of the Arcane Empire in Northtown City. It was necessary to take Hathaway with him. Okay. That's right, I also met 2 warrior monks this time. Alex suddenly recalled. Monks? Su Len was slightly stunned. What are monks doing in the city hall? They came with the adventurers who found the ruin. They said they wanted to see you, Alex said with a shrug. Su Len was also curious about the monks' arrival. When he heard that the monks came with the adventurers who found the ruin, he seemed to understand something. Monks were a very special profession. In the beginning, this profession was only found in the eastern continent. Later, after the sea route was opened, many people traveled to the eastern continent. This profession gradually spread to the western continent. Martial monks had mastered a type of transcendent power called qi. Although this power was not as powerful as magic, it had a deep impact on other professions. For example, the advanced professions of warriors, weapon masters, and sword masters were all influenced by monks. Among them, the sword master's signature move, Qi Chop, was a special application of Qi. Wizards were very interested in the meditation methods of the monks. After combining them with the meditation methods of the monks, the wizards' meditation methods had undergone a huge change. Druids were very interested in the monks' philosophy of the unity of man and nature, so they derived a kind of nature's heart. However, this was not the reason why Su Len paid special attention to monks. It was because they often suppressed powerful evil creatures. Monks had a special kind of power. Their spirit power was very strong. Usually, they would suppress ancient monsters in the monastery. Ancient evil creatures were very difficult to kill. Many of them were sealed, and martial monks were responsible for suppressing these monsters. It was said that if all of the ancient evil creatures suppressed by the monk were released, their power could possibly destroy the entire continent. Of course, the monks who could suppress these monsters couldn't be just anyone. They had to be legendary level monks. Part of a monk's power came from cultivation, while the other part came from receiving precepts. The more precepts a monk received, the more powerful they would be. These precepts were very strict, and the strength of a monk was directly related to the number of precepts they received. Under normal circumstances, ordinary monks would receive 2 major precepts and 4 or 5 minor precepts. Only ascetic monks would receive more precepts, and ascetics who were at a higher level than ascetic monks were even more powerful. Every year, many monks would participate in the ascetic test, but in the end, only a few passed. As for becoming an ascetic, it was even more pitiful. Many people couldn't stand the precepts of ascetics and broke them. In the end, they could only become ordinary monks. Let them in. Sulen agreed to meet these monks. Soon, 2 monks arrived at the astrology platform. The 2 monks wore shabby hemp clothes. The clothes were a little white, and their faces were solemn. Their arms and legs were exposed, and Sulen could clearly see that there were many old wounds on them. They wore tattered straw sandals, and their hands were full of thick calluses. You are ascetics? Seeing the 2 monks' attire, Sulen's eyes narrowed. Yes, your highness. Hello. The leading monk put his hands together and said, I am Ming Su, and this is my junior brother Ming Tan. We are here for the monsters in the ruins. You are going to suppress the monsters in the ruins? Sulen asked. Yes, your highness, Ming Su said. Sorry, but I want to kill that monster. Sulen shook his head and said. Kill that monster? Ming Su was stunned for a moment, then said, Your highness, you should know that those monsters are difficult to deal with. They can't be killed by normal means. I am going to try. If it doesn't work, then we will talk about it. Sulen shook his head and said. How could he let go of such a monster? This place was too close to the northern citadel, and he didn't feel safe sealing them here. Although Sulen rejected the 2 ascetics' request, he still invited them to go with him to the hidden realm. After all, they were 2 high-grade monks, and their combat strength was quite strong. When Hathaway recovered from her injuries, Sulen had been waiting for a long time. After Hathaway came out of seclusion, he immediately prepared to leave with his people. This time, the people of the northern citadel set off in groups. Sulen, Hathaway, Alex, Karina, and the 2 monks went directly to the astrology platform. With a flash of light, everyone came to a wasteland very close to the ruins. After coming here, Sulen clearly felt that something was different. Not far ahead, there was an area that was somewhat different from the real world. Although it looked similar, in his perception, it was like a layer of illusion. According to the external factors and the interference of the distorted energy, this should be a magic barrier. What he saw now should be the camouflage of a magic barrier. In Sulen's eyes, this camouflage was about 80% similar to the real world. Basically, many buildings were projected here. This barrier simulated the terrain and environment closest to the real world, which was more than 95% similar. There was also a layer of fog in the surroundings. With this layer of fog, this area looked even more real. After coming here, Sulen saw many monsters hiding in the fog. These were ordinary beasts and violent beasts that had mutated under the power of the hidden realm and became a new kind of monster. Mutated monster, challenge rating 7. Sulen even felt that there were many more powerful mutated monsters in the fog. These mutated monsters must have mutated under the power of the hidden realm and become stronger. Chapter 540. Mutated monsters were normal beasts and ferocious beasts that had mutated under the radiation of the secret realm. To be honest, Sulan could kill a monster of this level with one hand. However, it was still very dangerous for normal people. Moreover, there were too many of these monsters. Hathaway looked at the fog around them and frowned slightly. Then, she waved the magic staff in her hand and a ray of light flashed across her body. Dispel the fog. Powerful mana fluctuations instantly swept over, and the dense fog that had originally shrouded the surroundings quickly dissipated like snow. It only took a few breaths of time for the fog to completely dissipate. As the fog dissipated, the mutated monsters that were hiding in it were immediately exposed. Wild Wind Blade Dance. Alex flapped her wings twice and a gust of wind elemental energy flew out from her body. This wind elemental energy turned into a gust of wind in the blink of an eye. In the next second, dozens of wind blades spun and flew towards the mutated monsters. As the wind blades swept across the area, corpses were everywhere. All of the mutated monsters were cut into countless pieces. None of them could last more than 3 seconds. In just a few breaths, the mutated monsters around them were all wiped out. It's done. Let's go directly. Alex waved her hand and the wind blades that were wreaking havoc began to slowly dissipate. Soon, they turned into a gust of wind and blew away. Only the large number of corpses on the ground and the smell of blood in the air reminded everyone that this place was not safe. Sulan looked at the ruins not far away. There was a strange magic energy surrounding the ruins. It was the ancient ruins that they were looking for. Spatial ripples detected. Spatial ripples detected. The system notification rang in Sulan's ears. This is the power of the mystery lock. Hathaway's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. This secret realm is protected by a layer of mystery lock. You said this is a mystery lock. Then our mission this time? Sulan asked in surprise. As a part-time wizard, he naturally knew how powerful a mystery lock was. If this mystery lock was to stop them, they would have to spend a lot of time. Even dealing with the monsters here would be unpredictable. Hathaway, can you decipher this mystery lock? Sulan asked. Hathaway did not speak. Her eyes were fixed in front of her. Her eyes kept flashing with light. It was obvious that she was casting a spell to observe the mystery lock. Phew. After about half an hour, Hathaway let out a long sigh. The light on her body also slowly dissipated at this moment. How are you feeling? Do you want to have a rest? Surin stepped forward to support Hathaway. Hathaway shook her head slightly, excitement flashing in her eyes. No need. This is my first time seeing a mystery lock, I'm excited. I can't help but Suluan smiled. This is Northern Battlefront City. Since we've found it, it's ours. You can do whatever you want with it. There's no need to rush. Hathaway shook her head and said, we won't be able to figure out anything about a legendary rune like the Enigma lock in a short time. Let's get rid of the monsters in this ruin first, then we can study it. Whether or not we can install the Enigma lock on our wizard tower depends on this Enigma lock. Speaking of which, we're in luck. Hathaway smiled. This mystery lock in front of us is not an offensive type. I just observed it briefly and found that it's used to suppress the things inside. This mystery lock is good for us. You're saying that this mystery lock is for the sealed monster in the mystery realm? Sulan's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. At the same time, he raised the danger level of the sealed monster to another level. A monster that made the ancient arcanists so cautious must be very powerful. Yes, the monster we're going to face this time might be something from the legends, Hathaway said seriously. You know, the ancient arcanists even dared to study the gods. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a demon lord sealed in here. A demon lord? That's even better. It's been sealed for thousands of years, and most of its strength must have been wiped out. With the suppression of the plane, it won't be too difficult to kill it completely. By then, the divinity on it will definitely satisfy us. Sulan smiled. I'm just giving an example. In fact, the probability of it being a demon lord is very small. If it's a demon lord's power radiation, it won't be this kind of mutated monster. It should have the characteristics of a demon, Hathaway explained. However, even if it's not a demon lord sealed in here, I still have to be extra careful. Don't worry. Sulen nodded and said in a deep voice. I won't joke with my life. Hathaway continued, the area covered by the mystery of this ancient ruin is not small. On the surface, it looks like it only covers the area in front of us. In fact, this place uses the same technology as the mysterious realm, spatial folding. I estimate that it's at least 30 square kilometers in size, or even bigger. The energy waves of this mystery are weak now. Maybe it doesn't have enough energy. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy to find this place. This ruin is probably exposed because the mystery doesn't have enough energy and can't cover it completely. But that's still necessary. If it has enough energy, it won't be easy for us to get in, Hathaway said as they came to the ruins. I've observed it carefully just now. This mystery doesn't have any super long-range attack ability, nor does it have the ability to fight in the air. Its main ability is to suppress the sealed monster, and its secondary ability is to protect, as well as some spatial folding and camouflage. Now that this mystery doesn't have enough energy, even its defense and camouflage effects are about to disappear. Under normal circumstances, the challenge rating of a mystery was 30+. Of course, this was based on the premise that it had enough energy and was maintained well on a daily basis. The mystery in front of them didn't even have enough energy, let alone daily maintenance. However, the mystery still had a terminal defense system. As long as the mystery was still in operation, there would be a mechanical body as the final defense. Thankfully, the main function of this puzzle lock was to deal with the sealed monster. According to the priority order on the puzzle lock, when they appeared together with the sealed monster, the puzzle lock had to prioritize attacking that monster. Only after the sealed monster was dealt with would it attack them. This way, as long as they were careful, the mystery could be of help to them. Of course, considering the current state of the mystery, the help it could provide was limited. Where do we go in? Sulen asked. Wait a minute, I'm looking for the weakest point of the mystery, Hathaway said. Chapter 541. Hathaway took out her wand and chanted a spell. A powerful magic energy slowly appeared. Sulen, Alex, and Karina stood not far away and waited quietly. The magic energy around them quickly gathered. Under Hathaway's control, the powerful energy slowly merged into the mystery lock outside the ruins. A dazzling light flashed, and a spatial crack slowly appeared and expanded. Soon, an exit was forcibly opened in the area around the mystery lock. A cold wind blew, and the negative energy in the surroundings instantly became several times denser. Obviously, the radiation of the monster's power was very serious. Such dense negative energy. There won't be any undead, right? I don't know, but let's go in first. Hathaway said as she stabilized the spatial gate. Sulen stepped into the spatial gate first, and the others followed closely behind. After everyone entered, Hathaway dispersed the spell, and the spatial gate quickly shrank. In the blink of an eye, the mystery lock returned to its original state. After entering the ruins, the surroundings were in ruins. There was a rotten smell in the air, and there were some vague figures floating around in the distance. Those were ghosts. Some monsters in the wilderness had died and turned into wandering ghosts. They were attracted by the dense negative energy here. Sulen frowned. His body flickered, and a surge of lightning energy gushed out from his body. A series of crackling sounds rang out, and the negative energy in the surroundings was instantly swept away. Dispel the undead. Hathaway waved her wand, and a ray of light instantly spread out from her body. Wherever it passed, the negative energy was quickly dispelled. Even the ghosts screamed and disappeared, leaving behind a thumb-sized soul crystal. After dispelling the surrounding undead and fog, a strange building with an ancient style appeared before them. This was a building complex with a completely different style from the current one. All of the buildings were tall and majestic, looking extraordinary. Moreover, there were special magic patterns on the eaves. Metal spears protruded from the rooftops, each embedded with a crystal ball. Magic towers stood in the distance, but due to the lack of energy, the magic light on them had been extinguished. Even further away, there was a magnificent palace. The magic civilization of the ancient arcanists was very strong, and they had completely solved the problem of basic material life. Moreover, they had entered the interstellar era, so this kind of magnificent palace was very common. Many of these buildings were enchanted with hardening spells when they were built. After thousands of years, most of these buildings were still intact. "Looks like we're in luck," Su Len said happily when he saw the well-preserved buildings. "What's that?" Alex suddenly said. Su Len turned around and saw a stone tablet as tall as a person. There seemed to be many words carved on it. After seeing the stone tablet, everyone hurried over to take a look. "This is the language of the ancient arcanists. Ancient Netherese," Hathaway said after identifying it. "Ferris Laboratory, the Wisdom Tower in the north, the Eye of Anaris." "Laboratory?" Su Len frowned. This didn't seem to be an ordinary ruin. Su Len and Hathaway didn't delay and continued to walk into the ruin. Crack! Su Len immediately stopped and looked around. Soon, there was a continuous cracking sound. Su Len found the source of the sound. It was coming from under the soil in front of them. Under the soil? Su Len, who was rich in battle experience, immediately knew what it was. He said to the girls beside him, "Be careful, there are undead below. They smell the scent of living people on us." There was a flash of light on their bodies, and they directly used fly to fly into the air. As soon as they flew, the originally flat ground around them suddenly arched up, quickly forming small graves. Then the graves broke, and skeletons crawled out from the ground. Skeletal undead. These skeletal undead were different from ordinary undead. They were about 2 meters tall, and their bones had changed from the pale white of ordinary skeletons to gray. There was also a metallic luster on them. The bones in their arms had been twisted and mutated, turning into sharp bone blades. At a glance, one could tell that these were dangerous monsters. Skeletal Undead Challenge Level 11-inch Undead Intimidate. Flaming Storm. The skeletal undead that had just appeared suddenly became stiff and couldn't move. Then, a powerful fire element rose up, and countless flames like a storm engulfed all the skeletal undead. The flames burned, and the undead's aura constantly emitted from the skeletal undead, which then sizzled with the surrounding flames. Soon, the raging flame storm dissipated, and all the skeletal undead disappeared, leaving behind a pile of ash on the ground. All the skeletal undead had been thoroughly purified. After a simple sweep of the battlefield, the skeletal undead were poor. It could be said that more than 90% of the undead were poor. Su Luan only found some soul crystals among the ashes. After cleaning up the battlefield, Su Len and the others walked into the ruins again. Soon, they arrived near a dilapidated building. This was already the periphery of the ruins, and there were many dilapidated buildings nearby. Su Len came to a room and gently pushed the door. As soon as he touched the door, it turned into ashes. Cough cough. Sullen's body flashed, and a protective shield rose, blocking all the dust. When the dust dissipated, he entered the room, but he was soon disappointed. This was not an important place. There was no magic protection around, and the things inside had long decayed after thousands of years. There was nothing valuable. The group spread out and searched these rooms. Only Alex was lucky enough to find a few magic gems, and then nothing else. After confirming that there was nothing else, the group continued to search the ruins. This ruin was very dilapidated, and most of the things had completely decayed. Only a few things were still preserved. As they continued to go deeper, Su Len came to the wizard tower at the outermost edge. Seeing the wizard tower in front of him, Sullen's heart was burning. These wizard towers should be auxiliary towers of the central wizard tower, about 50 meters tall. This was a common method used by ancient arcanists. After building a main tower, they would build auxiliary towers around it. The auxiliary towers were usually used as energy nodes. They did not have an independent energy network, and they were attached to the energy network of the main tower. Under normal circumstances, they were the residences of arcanists' apprentices, disciples, and followers, and areas where they did experiments. They had part of the function of the main wizard tower. Chapter 542. There's no energy here, Hathaway said as she looked at the wizard tower in front of her. That is to say, more than 90% of the defense facilities inside, including the runic array, have stopped working. Isn't that better? It saves us a lot of trouble, Su Len said with a smile. Let's go in and have a look. Everyone cast a protective spell, and then Su Len stepped in first. No one had come to this wizard tower for thousands of years. As soon as the door was pushed open, a thick layer of dust was stirred up. Su Len frowned. A gust of wind blew in through the door, and after a few seconds, it flew out of the door with a lot of dust. Su Len entered the wizard tower. Because there was no energy, the wizard tower was dark. Su Len snapped his fingers, and a soft ball of light appeared, illuminating the whole space. The hall of the wizard tower looked dilapidated, but from the dim decorations and rotten furniture, one could still see how luxurious it used to be. The crystal chandelier in the hall had been smashed to the ground, and the carpet under their feet had decayed into a black mass. Many glassware had been broken, and the inlaid gold foil had lost its luster. It seemed to have no value at all. Su Len didn't stay here for long. There was basically nothing to be gained in the hall. He simply identified the direction and walked upstairs. The second floor of the wizard tower was a rest area. Several people searched different rooms, but they didn't find anything valuable except decayed things. The wizards who originally lived here seemed to have left in a hurry. The room looked very messy, but the valuable items had been taken away. Several people searched, but except for some arcane gold coins and a few magic props that had lost their magic power, there was nothing else. Su Len continued to search the upper floor of the wizard tower, and soon the group came to the top of the wizard tower. As soon as they arrived, Sullen's body slightly stagnated, and then he recovered. The scene in front of him surprised him. At the top of the wizard tower was a laboratory. Although thousands of years had passed, it could still be seen that this was a high-end alchemy laboratory. There was a wide test bench and a dazzling array of glassware. Although there was a thick layer of dust, it could still be seen that they were well preserved. In the middle of the laboratory, there was a round cover. The cover looked like a glass cover. It was covered with dust, but they could still see what was inside. In the middle of the glass cover was a table that looked like an operating table. On this table was a tall skeleton. The skeleton's limbs and neck were all locked by metal shackles. This skeleton was not human. It had sharp fangs, thick bones, and horns on its head like a cow's, but much bigger than a cow's horns. Its two arms looked like a pair of scorpion's pincers, and there were two human-like arms on its chest. Its legs were thick and powerful, similar to the joints of cows and horses. There were 3 sharp toes on each foot, and there was a pair of bone wings on both sides of the spine. Su Len recognized the type of skeleton in front of him at a glance. Not long ago, he had seen many in the abyss. The skeleton in front of him was a demon, and it was a high-grade demon. Judging from the characteristics of its body, it was likely to be a Glabrizu. It was a type of high demon with a challenge rating of level 16 and above. It was a beguiler. It had violet eyes and dark brown and black skin. This type of demon was about 18 feet tall and weighed about 5,500 pounds. Although this type of demon was powerful, it preferred to deceive rather than fight head-on. Of course, once the deceit failed or was exposed, this kind of demon would fly into a rage out of humiliation and directly launch a fierce attack. This kind of demon could perform a wish spell for a mortal once, so they often used this ability to fulfill any wish of a mortal. However, the price was often extremely high, and of course, the result of this wish would not be too good. Compared to other demons, Glabrezu were experts in deception and lying. They would use illusion to hide their true appearance and use all kinds of lies and tricks to trick people. This demon was like a bailer, and it was often used as a commander in the demon army. The master of this wizard tower is not simple. A gust of wind element flew by, and the dust on the glass cover was blown away. The situation inside was completely exposed. A Glabrezu. This may be the only Glabrezu I've seen that was starved to death. Sulen looked at the skeleton in front of him and said with a smile. It may also be the longest-lived Glabrezu. Hathaway joked. Although demons usually had a lifespan of thousands of years, so far, there was no demon in the multiverse that died of old age. This should be a demon that was caught or summoned by the master of the wizard tower, and then forcibly imprisoned here for research. Hathaway stepped forward and looked at the demon in the glass cover. It is said that in the era of the Arcane Empire, the Arcanists even occupied a few layers of the abyss and turned them into their colonies. Maybe this demon was caught and sold here. But no matter what, this shows that the ruins we are in now are very dangerous. Hathaway, can you open this glass cover? Sulen reached out and knocked on the glass cover twice. The glass cover made a knocking sound. The quality of the cover was very good, and it was used by the Arcanists to imprison demons. One could imagine how strong this cover was. Let me look for it. Hathaway looked around for a while and finally found an open button on the experiment table, but after pressing it, the glass cover did not open. Looks like it's not this button. After waiting for a while and nothing happened, Alex shrugged and said, No, the energy here has long been exhausted, so even if there is an open button, the cover will not open. Sulen observed in front of the glass cover for a while and then a flash of light flashed on his body. He reached out and slightly exerted force on the glass cover, and a squeaking mechanical sound was heard. This sound was like the sound of a door shaft that had not been lubricated for decades. It was hoarse and unpleasant. Sulen slowly lifted the glass cover in the squeaking sound. With a click, the glass cover was completely opened. Sulen came to the operation table and picked up a demon skeleton to check. It's useless. After a while, Sulen threw away the demon skeleton in his hand with disappointment. It's been too long. The magic on these bones has completely dissipated, and they have become ordinary bones. There is no use at all. Chapter 543. The body of a high-grade demon was a precious magic material. Although it was a pity that the materials in front of them had lost their effect, there was still one thing that was not damaged, which was the operation table and the glass cover that trapped the demon. These two things could suppress a high-grade demon like the Glabrezu until it starved to death. One could imagine how sturdy and powerful it was. It was great for imprisoning enemies or something similar. This thing is not bad. Let's take it back. Sulen knocked on the metal table and said. Next, everyone turned the entire laboratory upside down. Other than a well-preserved experiment record, the only things left were the experimental equipment. The experiment record was a relatively important thing. The paper used was processed parchment. This kind of parchment was expensive and could be stored for a long time. It was a very good recording material. A research report was recorded on it. Research report on the body structure, resistance, and bloodline of the Glabrezu. It recorded detailed information about the Glabrezu, as well as their weaknesses, preferences, body structure diagram, blood, and so on. Looking at the research report, Sulen looked at the demon that had turned into a skeleton with pity. What a good comrade. He used his life to provide us with such detailed experiment data. You are like a candle, lighting yourself up to illuminate others, paving the way for the research of spells. After spending some time carefully removing the binding table and the glass cover, Sulen and the others continued to leave the wizard tower. Sulen, look over there. As soon as they left the wizard tower, Karina suddenly pointed at a patch of plants in the darkness not far away and said, "Those plants look a bit strange." Plants? Sullen's heart skipped a beat. He turned around and looked. The plants that grew in this place were usually magical plants. It was very likely that the ancient arcanists had left behind a herb field. The light spell dispelled the darkness, and the plants gradually became visible. They looked a bit familiar. They looked like piranha flowers, but unlike piranha flowers, they looked like they had been pruned. These magical plants grew in fixed areas, giving Sulen the feeling that they were in the back garden of a villa. After approaching, Sullen's eyes lit up. There were still many fruits hanging on these magical plants. It was obvious that they had ripened and no one had picked them yet. Since he had encountered them, Sulen was naturally not going to let them go. Sensing the approach of a living creature, the man-eating flowers awoke from their slumber. However, Hathaway immediately cast hypnosis on them, causing them to fall asleep once more. The fruits of the man-eating flowers could be used to concoct life potions. The fruits before her were enough to concoct a dozen or so bottles. Ancient arcanists liked to plant carnivorous plants such as flesh thorns, man-eating flowers, and magic willows at the borders of their manors or wizard towers. They would kill any animals or humans that trespassed here. After collecting the fruits, the group once again ventured into the depths of the ruins. The path beneath their feet was filled with cracks, and many places were severely damaged. However, they could vaguely see that these paths were more than 10 meters wide. The buildings on both sides of the road were not spared either. All the well-preserved buildings were cleaned up. Although they didn't find anything too precious, the harvest was still good. Soon, the group arrived in front of the tall wizard tower in the center of the secret realm. The wizard tower in front of them was more than 150 meters high, and its whole body was black and brown. The entire wizard tower was built entirely with obsidian, and it was also blessed with hardening magic. Such a wizard tower was completely designed according to the standards of a floating space tower. Seeing this wizard tower, everyone's eyes were burning with passion. Under normal circumstances, this was the most important and easiest place to obtain precious information or items in the entire ruins. However, in the face of the treasure trove in front of him, Sulen did not act rashly. This was because this was the only wizard tower in the entire secret realm that could still function normally. At the same time, the core of the layer of mystery outside the ruins was also here. Can Hathaway crack it? Sulen asked in a low voice. Hathaway's eyes were fixed on the wizard tower in front of her. If there is enough energy here, it's basically impossible to break it by force. In this situation, it's naturally not a problem for me. Just wait a moment. Soon, Hathaway's body flashed. An array of light was instantly stimulated from her body, instantly hitting the layer of energy barrier outside the wizard tower. The originally dim energy barrier flickered quickly a few times, and a hole was quickly broken. Advanced Dispel Magic. At the moment when the energy barrier was broken, Sulen immediately flew in. At the same time, at the top of the wizard tower, a purple magic crystal flickered slightly, and then a window on the wizard tower suddenly opened, and then a magic energy construct was activated. The red light in its eyes lit up, and this was obviously a special magic energy construct at the legendary level, and it was quickly activated. This golem puppet's appearance was bright silver, and there were many beautiful runes on it. There were many amethysts on its body structure, but before it was completely activated, Sulen threw a maze spell over, and the golem puppet that was activating disappeared in an instant. The maze spell was very effective in trapping people. As long as it did not pass the test, it would be forcibly transmitted to a different dimension space maze, and could only return through the maze, or wait until the spell expired. Under normal circumstances, the higher the intelligence, the faster the return, but for the Tauren, this spell was ineffective. After dealing with this legendary golem, the others followed in. Sullen's figure rushed in quickly. They had to save time and seize the control center of the wizard tower as quickly as possible. An energy barrier appeared on the surface of his body, followed by a few flashes of light. Sulen did not slow down, and quickly rushed toward the wizard. Intruder detected. Activate the mystery protection. Activate the defense form. Activate the golem puppet. A mechanical sound rang out, followed by a series of energy beams filled with the aura of death quickly flew towards Su Len, and then 3 golem puppets walked out of the door. Lightning Spear. Three lightning bolts instantly appeared in midair, and in the next second, these lightning bolts turned into 3 spears completely composed of lightning energy. The lightning flashed and instantly hit the golem puppets. These 3 golem puppets that had been sealed for a long time trembled violently, and then suddenly stopped. Good luck, there is really no energy here, these golem puppets can't even repair themselves. This ruin had been sealed for thousands of years, and it lacked energy to maintain it. It was a miracle that these golem puppets could still move, and there was no hope for them to perform better. Chapter 544. Once Su Len entered the main wizard tower, he needed to race against time. Due to the lack of energy in other parts of the ruins, all kinds of protective spells and golems had been shut down. However, as the most important wizard tower in the ruins, all the energy would be supplied here first. Su Len's actions would make the wizard tower's spirit think that the wizard tower was invaded. The wizard tower's combat mode would be activated, and the golems in the wizard tower would be awakened. This was not good news for Su Len. How many golems were there in a wizard tower? This was directly proportional to the wealth of the wizard tower's owner. Just like the wizard tower in the ruins, the entire ruins belonged to him. With such a large secret realm, it was obvious that the owner of this wizard tower was very rich. Su Len would not be surprised if there was an entire golem legion sealed in his wizard tower. Many wizards were otakus. They would accumulate all kinds of resources like hamsters and then make all kinds of items. The number of golems would also increase over time. If you were fighting with others, having an golem legion would be very comfortable. However, if you were facing an golem legion, trust me, run away as soon as possible. After Su Len rushed in, the wizard tower's defense system had been activated. Although there were only a few golems now, as long as they were given a little time, the golems sealed in the wizard tower would soon rush over in large numbers. At that time, they would have to face hundreds of golems of all kinds. With so many golems attacking together, even a legendary master would have to flee. Fortunately, the space in the wizard tower was limited, and to save energy, most of the golems in the wizard tower were in a state of hibernation. As long as Su Len was fast enough, he could shut down the control center in the wizard tower or take control by force before those golems were all activated. Lightning spears flew out from Su Len's hands and instantly hit those golems that had just been activated. The situation was slightly better than Su Len had imagined. Due to the lack of energy, the golems in the wizard tower were in a state of hibernation. This state could minimize energy consumption. However, the lack of energy maintenance also caused the structure of these golems to age. Thousands of years had passed, and apart from some precious magic materials, the rest of the magic materials would more or less have some problems. When these golems were struck by the lightning spears, the already fragile components of the golems were easily destroyed by the powerful lightning power. Hathaway, Alex, and Karina followed closely behind Su Len. They weren't idle either. Sometimes, when Su Len couldn't deal with a new golem in time, they would immediately attack it with spells. One after another, the steel golems were awakened and then quickly destroyed by the spells. Su Len and the others were very fast. As high-grade wizards, they had all mastered combat spellcasting. They could cast spells while moving quickly without worrying about being interrupted. Even the weaker ones, Alex and Karina, were sorcerers. Alright, ladies, don't completely destroy these golems. Su Len couldn't help but exclaim as he watched them cast disintegration and turn the steel golems into piles of scrap metal. These are our spoils of war. After we occupy this place, these golems can still be used after some repairs. After using disintegration, these things will become scrap metal. Alex, you wastrel. Seeing another steel golem being hit by a ray of light and turned into a pile of scrap metal, Su Len reached out and knocked Alex's head. Sorry, Su Len, I'm used to it. Alex laughed. Alright, be careful next time. Sulen casually cast a chain of lightning and destroyed a golem that had just appeared. Although he hadn't completely occupied this place, Sulen already saw it as his own. Host, please pay attention. Domain energy fluctuations detected. A powerful energy instantly spread out from the wizard tower. Sulen only felt that the originally smooth spells had become jerky, as if he had fallen into a quagmire in an instant. This is energy confinement. The enigma has been activated. Sulen's eyes lit up. It seemed that the tower spirit had sensed the danger. Energy confinement was an ability of the enigma, but it required a lot of energy to use this ability. For a wizard tower that lacked energy, the tower spirit would not activate this ability unless it was absolutely necessary. A ray of lightning flashed, and a powerful lightning energy was instantly released from Sulen's body. A domain that was not inferior to before spread out from his body, and the few women who were originally imprisoned instantly regained control of their magic. After activating the domain, Sulen's power was even more powerful. Soon, the group of people arrived in front of the wizard tower's gate. This gate was made of a silver-white metal. Although it had been there for thousands of years, it didn't seem to be damaged at all. Sulen casually threw a lightning spear, but as the lightning flashed and the lightning energy dissipated, the silver-white gate in front of him didn't move at all. There wasn't even a mark on it. Seeing this, a trace of surprise flashed in Sulen's eyes, but in the next second, the storm halberd appeared in his hand. Lightning spear. The dazzling lightning instantly shrouded the storm halberd, and as a large amount of lightning merged, an invisible torrent of energy quickly gathered around Sulen. The storm halberd was originally completely covered by lightning, and the powerful lightning energy spread to the surroundings, forcing Hathaway and the others to move out of the way. Sulen's warrior robe was also propped up by the static electricity, and more lightning energy was injected into the storm halberd. The powerful energy gathered, and magic weapons that were slightly inferior in quality almost fell apart under this pressure. Even the storm halberd, a legendary weapon, was trembling slightly. It was obviously close to its limit. In the end, the storm halberd that had gathered infinite power was lifted up by Sulen, and in the next second, it fiercely pierced the silver-white metal gate in front of him. Crack! Rumble! The deafening thunder sounded, and the entire wizard tower shook violently, and a powerful energy exploded in an instant. When the light dissipated, the gate in front of them had been completely blown open, and there was a big hole in the gate. Ding! The energy domain has disappeared. The effect of energy imprisonment has been weakened. Sulen panted for a moment, and then directly entered the gate with the storm halberd. On the platform in the center of the hall, a crystal ball was constantly emitting a faint light. It was the host crystal of the tower spirit. Just as Sulen stepped forward and was about to close it, a huge roar came from the other side of the hall. Chapter 545. Bang! Sulen's vision went dark, and he subconsciously swept the storm war halberd across. A huge force came, and he felt as if he had hit steel, and his palm was slightly numb. The black shadow flew backward and quickly stabilized. Only then did Sulen see clearly that it was a strange high-level golem in front of him. Countless runes were engraved on its body, and the light purple magic patterns were like tattoos all over the golem. The golem was 6 meters tall, and its appearance was similar to that of a human. From its appearance, it was obvious that it was a legendary golem, and it was very likely that it had been modified. Guardian activated. Carry out the third battle plan, eliminate all intruders. The golem's eyes flashed red, and it completely locked onto Sulen. Then, a cold mechanical voice sounded. Elemental fission shield activated. Aura/activated. Weakness detection activated. Silver holy sword, legendary, charged. Armor break activated. Sharpness activated. Greater haste activated. With the cold mechanical voice, a huge beheading sword with a silver glow appeared in the golem's hand. Under Suren's dumbfounded expression, the legendary construct in front of him instantly entered the complete state. Don't interfere. I'll deal with it, Su Len immediately said when he saw the golem. This thing was obviously a high-level legendary golem, a killing machine specially used to guard the core of the wizard tower. Apart from Su Len, no one else could withstand this thing's combat power. Greater haste, maximum spell. Greater displacement force field, maximum spell. Greater bear's toughness, maximum spell. Greater bull's strength, maximum spell. Greater fox's cunning, maximum spell. Legendary mage's armor, maximum spell. Weakness detection. A series of spells rose from Sullen's body. Hathaway, Karina, and Alex quickly cast all kinds of spells on Su Len. A bright sword light illuminated Sullen's eyes, and the 6-meter-tall guardian statue in the tower instantly appeared in front of Su Len. The silver sword instantly chopped towards Sullen's neck. Su Len had several energy barriers in front of him, but they were shattered by the guardian golem's sword beam. Finally, they were blocked by the storm battle halberd. The guardian's speed was very fast, and his tall body was unexpectedly agile. The speed of his sword was so fast that it left behind a series of afterimages, slashing towards Sullen's vital parts. Su Len didn't show any weakness. He kept waving the storm halberd in his hand, and his figure moved quickly like a ghost. Bang bang bang. The storm battle halberd and the silver sacred sword kept colliding, and a series of sparks kept appearing. In a short period of time, Su Len and the guardian golem had exchanged dozens of blows. Powerful energy surged in the surroundings. The energy barriers on Sullen's body were all shattered, and even the legendary mage's armor was damaged. The guardian golem wasn't any better. The energy barriers on the surface of its body had dimmed, and scars from the storm battle halberd appeared on its silver body. Thunder slash. Dazzling lightning instantly erupted from Sullen's body, and the storm battle halberd slashed towards the guardian golem with the power of endless lightning. The dazzling lightning completely enveloped the guardian golem's tall body, and a deafening thunder rumbled. In the next second, the guardian golem's tall figure was sent flying. The elemental fission shield that originally covered its body was completely shattered, and the storm battle halberd left a deep mark on the guardian golem's body. Sullen's figure flashed, and in the next second, he appeared beside the guardian golem. The storm battle halberd waved like a windmill and continuously attacked, forcing the guardian golem, who had just stabilized its body, to retreat. What are you waiting for? Hathaway, go and deal with that tower genie. This legendary golem can't be dealt with in a short time. Okay, you hold it back. I'll go and crack the tower genie's core. Hathaway reacted quickly. Although she was shocked by the battle between Su Len and the golem, she recovered in an instant. Then, while Su Len was holding the golem back, she began to crack the tower genie's core. Bigby's flying palm. A huge palm appeared out of thin air, and then directly sent the golem flying. Before the guardian golem could stand firm, Sullen's attack had come again. High-grade legendary golems were very difficult to deal with. This thing had high attack, high defense, fast speed, and surprisingly high magic resistance. Although Su Len was confident that he could tear it down, it would take a long time. This kind of legendary construct golem could be said to have almost no weaknesses. Su Len didn't want to tear this thing down. After all, not everyone could make a high-level legendary golem. The owner of this wizard tower was at least a high-level legendary existence. A golem of this level could be said to be very precious, and Su Len couldn't bear to break it. Even Su Luen could only suppress the guardian golem in front of him. Moreover, this guardian golem was also equipped with the Sword Saint's skills. If an advanced legendary warrior were in his place, the guardian golem would have long since finished him off. If this thing attacked at full strength, it wouldn't be surprising if it killed legendary Su Len in one strike. In fact, the guardian golem hadn't used its full strength yet. After all, golems made by wizards often needed the assistance of wizards. If it had the cooperation of a legendary wizard, it wouldn't have been a problem to directly kill the Baylor. Aura slash. After seeing Hathaway begin to break the core of the tower spirit, the guardian golem seemed to be anxious. It no longer defended against Sullen's attack. A silver-white sword aura instantly appeared on the 3-meter-long silver-white giant sword in its hand. The sharp sword aura seemed to tear through time and space, and it slashed fiercely towards Sulen. Boom! Sulen didn't back down. If he pushed it away, Hathaway would be in danger. The light blue thunder turned into a thunder snake and collided with the sword aura. Then, it disappeared. The guardian golem's body flashed, and in the next second, a sword aura burst out in an instant. Sword storm. The sword aura was activated, and the tall guardian golem quickly waved the silver sword aura. At this moment, the entire golem turned into a monster that was cutting at high speed. Sullen's face changed, and he subconsciously wanted to leave. However, just as his body was about to move, he immediately reacted. The thunder power in his body instantly poured into his body, and endless thunder continued to explode. Lightning flashed in all directions, and the sound of metal clashing rang out. Su Luan firmly blocked the guardian golem, but in the face of such a powerful attack, Su Luan was in a somewhat sorry state. The legendary mage armor on his body had completely disappeared, and even his clothes had become like that of a beggar. Chapter 546. The golems immediately stopped attacking. The guardian golem that was attacking suddenly stopped, and the red light in its 2 crystal eyes disappeared. Su Luan also breathed a sigh of relief. Hathaway, ask the tower genie where the core of the puzzle is located, Su Len said in a deep voice. Tower genie, where is the core of the puzzle? The core of the puzzle is at the top of the wizard tower, the tower genie said in a cold mechanical voice. Hathaway was a little confused. Isn't this the top of the wizard tower? Master, this is the 2nd floor of the wizard tower. There is another floor above it, the tower genie continued. This place was built with a spatial folding magic circle. I see. Hathaway nodded and asked the tower genie to open the door. They walked directly to the top of the wizard tower. The top of the wizard tower covered a large area. As soon as they arrived, they saw an enlarged puzzle magic circle. Purple arcane crystals floated quietly in the air. There were countless runes engraved on these crystals. A few silver light beams passed through each arcane crystal. These light beams crisscrossed back and forth like a fishing net, and those arcane crystals were the nodes of the net. Countless runes were engraved on the ground. These runes corresponded to the arcane crystals in the air. The top of the room was also engraved with a large number of runes. Purple gems were embedded in the ceiling, looking like twinkling stars in the night sky. In the center of the room was an elemental pool with a diameter of 5 meters. At this time, there was only a shallow layer of energy water left in the elemental pool. Because it had not been maintained for a long time, many of the runes on the elemental pool had been peeled off and damaged. Naturally, the energy extracted from the 4 elemental realms was gradually decreasing. The blue crystal that was originally floating above the elemental pool had also become dim. They could not help but worry about whether it would fall in the next second. The arcane crystals in the air were like a fishing net. In the end, all the silver light beams were connected to the crystal in front of them. This crystal was the core of the puzzle. Apart from Hathaway, Su Luan, Alex, and Karina were all confused about the riddle. They had no idea how to solve the riddle in front of them. Although Hathaway had mastered the puzzle lock technology, it was her first time seeing a puzzle lock. Fortunately, this puzzle lock had been in operation for thousands of years. No one maintained it. At the same time, its energy had been depleted. Otherwise, it would not be easy to gain control of this puzzle lock. Hathaway stepped forward and a silver glow appeared in her eyes. She tapped the blue crystal gently and a faint ripple spread out from the crystal. Then, a silver glow rose from Hathaway's body. This silver radiance was the embodiment of Hathaway's soul power. Sullen's soul power was now pale gold because he had fused with a large amount of divinity. At this time, whether it was Hathaway or Su Len, their souls actually already had some immortal characteristics. The lifespan of a legendary wizard was several times longer than that of a legendary warrior. Apart from the fact that wizards could make potions to increase their lifespan, the biggest reason was their soul power. If one only looked at the body of a legendary warrior, they were obviously healthier and more energetic than a wizard. However, the aging of their soul would cause their body to gradually age. On the other hand, wizards were the exact opposite. Hathaway's soul power entered a special space. This space was a huge magic network made up of countless magic nodes. This magic network completely covered the entire ruins. As Hathaway's soul power continued to crack the magic network, one by one, the magic nodes on the magic network were broken and controlled by Hathaway. A huge amount of soul power extended along the entire network. After an unknown amount of time, all the magic nodes were under her control. Hathaway slowly opened her eyes, and a feeling of weakness gushed out of her body. She staggered and was about to fall to the ground. Su Luan's eyes were sharp, and his hands were quick, and he caught her. "How are you? Are you hurt?" Su Lan asked a little anxiously. Hathaway struggled to smile at Su Lan. A touch of exhaustion appeared on her face. "I'm fine. It's just that my soul power has been overused. I'll be fine after some rest. Don't worry. This puzzle is seriously low on energy. Use an energy bottle to replenish it." "Okay." Su Luan nodded and handed Hathaway over to Karina and Alex to take care of. He then took out a palm-sized, beautiful crystal bottle from his storage space and walked to the elemental pool. He opened the cap of the crystal bottle and poured it into the elemental pool. A light blue elemental water slowly flowed out of the bottle. The concentration of elemental water in the room suddenly increased by more than 2 times. The light blue elemental water quickly fell. Soon, a thin layer of elemental water gathered in the almost dry elemental pool. The crystal bottle in Sullen's hand continued to pour the elemental water into the pool. This crystal bottle was an energy bottle made by Hathaway. It could collect the elemental water that overflowed from the elemental pool every day. Since many of the facilities in the Northwind Tower were not complete, the amount of elemental water produced every day far exceeded the Wizard Tower's daily consumption. To avoid wastage, Hathaway specially made some energy bottles. Although the energy bottle in front of Abel was only the size of a palm, it was made with a special spatial technique. The amount of elemental water stored in the bottle could fill up the entire elemental pool. Usually, a portion of the elemental water collected by these energy bottles would be used as energy reserves, while the other portion would be stored as experimental materials. Soon, as more and more elemental water was poured out of the bottle, the elemental pool began to rise at a speed visible to the naked eye. After about half an hour, the elemental pool was completely filled. Chapter 547. Tower Genie, restore the Enigma state and cancel the energy-saving mode, Hathaway ordered after seeing that the elemental pool was full of energy. Then a ray of spiritual light slowly lit up, and the originally dim purple crystal shone brightly at this moment. The spiritual light quickly spread to the surroundings along with the silver light beams. In a flash, the arcane crystals in the air were lit up one by one. The magic gems on the ceiling also lit up slightly, flashing a little bit of starlight. A strange force quickly spread out from here and shrouded the entire ruins in an instant. Outside the ruins that were originally filled with fog suddenly dissipated slowly, and a strange energy swept across. The layer of crumbling camouflage outside the ruins instantly solidified, and at the same time, a spatial force quickly spread out. If one were to look at it from a distance, one would find that the space suddenly looked like a stone thrown into a pool, with countless ripples. If one were to stare at it closely, one would find that with the ripples, the space began to slowly fold, and for a moment, there were countless phantoms, which made one dizzy, but then the phantoms were quickly smoothed out, and finally returned to its original state. Although it seemed that there was no change, in fact, the secret realm had been completely hidden. It's done. If we don't use the power of the Enigma now, the elemental water in the elemental pool can last for a month. Hathaway was not as tired as before after a short rest. The elemental pool here needs to be repaired as soon as possible, and there are other energy channels and rune inscription problems. The things in the ruins also need to be sorted out and repaired as soon as possible. I think we'll face the consequences of being understaffed for a long time. Why wouldn't you want a wizard tower from the Arcane Empire era? Sulen teased and winked at Hathaway, and it could be a floating space tower. By the way, this wizard tower is indeed built according to the floating space tower. Hathaway's eyes lit up, and she directly asked the Tower Genie, Tower Genie, this wizard tower can fly, activate the flight mode. Master, the floating space tower has insufficient energy, the flight mode cannot be activated, the Tower Genie's cold mechanical voice sounded. Are the floating space ring and other facilities damaged? Hearing the Tower Genie's words, Hathaway's eyes lit up, and she instantly became energetic. She quickly sat up straight on Alex's body, and there was no trace of her previous weak appearance. The wizard tower is the core area of the entire secret realm, the floating space ring is well preserved, and other overall facilities damage rate is less than 70%. It needs to be repaired before it can fly, the Tower Genie said coldly. The virtual library of the Sorcerer Tower has the blueprints and information for the construction of the Sorcerer Tower. There is a perfectly preserved floating ring here, Hathaway said in pleasant surprise. The floating space ring was the core component of the floating space tower that could fly. If the floating space city was compared to an airplane, the elemental pool was the fuel tank that provided sufficient energy, and the floating space ring was the engine that provided energy for the airplane. The floating space ring was a glorious achievement of the Arcane Empire era. It could lift the floating space tower, which weighed hundreds of tons, into the sky and fly freely. It could be said to be a very powerful legendary rune. It contained a lot of mathematical Olympiad knowledge. Hathaway only had some incomplete knowledge. Now there was a preserved floating space ring and information, which was good news for Hathaway. Master, you'd better not activate the flight mode, the Tower Genie suddenly reminded her. Why? Hathaway asked with some surprise. The core command left by the previous master was to suppress the things sealed under the wizard tower. Once the wizard tower takes off, the Enigma won't be able to suppress the seal, and the monster will soon break the seal. Sulen and Hathaway looked at each other, and immediately thought of the future she saw not long ago using astrology. What's sealed here? Sulen asked. The Tower Genie did not respond to Sulen's question. Seeing that the Tower Genie ignored him, Sulen was a little embarrassed. Tower Genie, adjust Sulen's authority to the highest. Hathaway was like a little fox who had stolen a chicken, and her beautiful big eyes curved into a crescent moon. Yes, Master. Recording soul fluctuations, backing up information, recording complete. Tower Genie, what's sealed under the wizard tower? Sulen asked again. Your Excellency, I don't have the authority to know the monster sealed under the wizard tower. According to the 70th resolution of the Supreme Arcane Parliament, this arcane realm is sealed, and the previous master was also imprisoned by the Arcane Parliament. For specific information, you can check the information left by the previous master. Sulen and Hathaway's faces became serious. It was obvious that the monster sealed below was a taboo, and they learned from the Tower Genie that the previous master was actually imprisoned by the Supreme Arcane Parliament. What did this predecessor do? He actually made the Supreme Arcane Parliament intervene directly. The Supreme Arcane Parliament was the highest ruling core of the Arcane Empire. Although the Arcane Empire was called an empire, it was actually a floating space city that was autonomous. The supreme leader of each floating space city was basically a Grand Arcanist, and each floating space city had a seat in the Supreme Arcane Parliament. Usually, everyone did their own thing and did not interfere with each other. Only when a major event occurred, all the floating space city would convene a meeting of the Supreme Arcane Parliament to discuss and make decisions. Although this parliament had great power in name, in reality, it did not care much. The previous master of this wizard tower actually made the Supreme Arcane Parliament take action personally. Sulen was curious about what he did at that time. Soon, Sulen asked the tower genie to pull out a set of experimental data and began to check it with Hathaway. Arcane calendar, year 3953, spring, some of the items in the laboratory have been exhausted. Last month, I traded with the dimensional merchant and spent a lot of money and resources. Suddenly, I found that the money left was not enough to buy materials this month. Forget it, I'll go to the astral world to collect it myself. Year 3958 of the arcane calendar, spring. My luck is really good. I found an area rich in materials in the astral plane. It only took me 3 days to collect enough materials to last me 2 months. I'm going to finish collecting here before going back. Arcane calendar, year 3958, spring, praise the goddess of luck. Today is my lucky day. I swear, today is more exciting than when I was promoted to legendary. I actually found the body of an ancient god in the astral world. I dare say that this is definitely the greatest discovery in the astral world in the last few hundred years. Divinity, artifact, ha ha ha, I'm going to become a grand arcanist. Chapter 548. Arcane calendar year 3958, summer. The laboratory I prepared for the ancient god's corpse is finally completed. Next, I can study this corpse without any worries. I can't wait. Arcane calendar year 3958, summer. The first experiment was a success. Ha, I'm a genius. I successfully extracted a bit of divinity from the corpse. This pure golden power looks really charming. Next, I'll try to go into seclusion and completely integrate this divinity into my body. Arcane calendar year 3958, summer. Damn it, the consciousness left by the ancient god is too powerful. It took me half a month to successfully integrate this divinity into my body. Although the process was a bit tortuous, the result was great. After integrating this divinity, I clearly felt a crack in the previous bottleneck. It seems that my idea was right. Autumn, year 3958 of the arcane calendar. Something was not right. There was a different kind of energy in this god's corpse. This energy was entangled with the god's corpse, and they seemed to be showing signs of revival. What the hell? Could it be that this god's corpse, which had been dead for thousands of years, could be revived? Arcane calendar year 3958, winter. Incredible. The power of divinity is really amazing. It has the power to turn something rotten into something magical. I can use it to make a divine artifact. Materials, I want all kinds of rare materials. I want to make a divine artifact that belongs to me. Arcane calendar year 3958, winter. Something seems to be wrong. I feel that my consciousness is affected. The number of times I've been angry has obviously increased. Just this morning, I scolded my favorite disciple, Flender. He actually stopped me from absorbing the divinity. Arcane calendar year 3959, spring. The weather today is good. Just now, I successfully broke through level 30 and reached level 31. Now, I'm an astral mage. Also, the power in the corpse has become stronger. I need to find a way to suppress it. Arcane calendar year 3959, spring. Damn it, this is not the original power of the corpse. This power is parasitic in the corpse. It wants to use the corpse of the god to revive. The corpse of the god is mine. I won't let anyone take it away. Arcane calendar year 3959, spring. This power is too strong. I can't suppress it anymore. It's starting to change. I have to find a way to deal with it as soon as possible. Arcane calendar year 3959, spring. Why did the Supreme Arcane Council send a document for inquiry? Could it be that they knew I had obtained the god's corpse? That's impossible. No, I forgot about Flender. That damned bastard, he actually dared to betray his teacher. I'll extract his soul and seal it in the lamp so that his soul will be burned forever. But before that, I have to hide the god's corpse somewhere else. Year 3959 of the Arcana calendar, spring. Those annoying special envoys from the Supreme Arcana Council came. He actually said that I was researching the power of the divine sin and violated the ban of the Supreme Arcana Council. What ban? These guys don't understand the greatness of divinity at all. They just covet my god corpse and want to take it from me. I should just chase them out. Arcana Calendar, Year 3959, Spring. The vitality and life force of the god's corpse are getting stronger and stronger. I have to suppress it as soon as possible. Fortunately, I had the help of the Wizard Tower. With the help of the Wizard Tower's power, I successfully suppressed him. Perhaps I should change my way of thinking. Year 3959 of the Arcana Calendar, Spring. Why is the Supreme Arcana Council here again? There's no end to it. This time, I won't meet with them. Negotiating with them is a complete waste of time. The log came to an abrupt end here. Although the log wasn't long and there was a lot of repeated information in it, Su Len still found the information about the thing sealed under the floating space tower. It seems that things are a little troublesome. Su Len closed the experiment log, and the expression on his face became a little gloomy. According to the information in the log, the previous master of the Wizard Tower was basically dead, but it was unknown whether he was killed by the Divine Sin or by the Supreme Arcana Council. Of course, Su Len was more likely to be arrested by the Supreme Arcana Council. If he was killed by the Divine Sin, then basically nothing would be left in the ruins. Now that the Wizard Tower was intact, it was very likely that it was done by the Supreme Arcana Council. Moreover, through the conversation with the Tower Spirit, he found that the seal here was made by the Supreme Arcana Mathematical Association. After the seal was completed, the Supreme Arcana Council gave up on the secret realm, and everyone was completely evacuated. That was also the reason why the buildings in the secret realm were so intact. Su Len deduced the matter in his mind and was surprised by the previous master of the Wizard Tower's ability to seek death. Not to mention that this guy directly seized the divinity from the god's corpse, he didn't even figure out the divine sin bred in the god's corpse. The divine sin was always born from the god's corpse, and the probability of such things happening was very high. Moreover, he didn't extract the soul of the divine sin to fuse with it after killing it. He was really courageous. He wasn't swallowed up by the negative consciousness of the divine sin, but judging from the experiment log, he was still affected. The ancient arcanists were really bold, and Su Len had to admire them. These arcanists were not even in awe of the gods. Otherwise, how could the Arthas Ascension be created? They actually wanted to seize the power of the gods by force. The ancient arcanists conducted too many dangerous experiments, such as bloodline experiments. Although Su Len didn't conduct in-depth research, the experiment was finally mature after hundreds and thousands of human experiments. In essence, the wizards of today were not much different from the ancient arcanists. They also liked to seek death. The only difference was that after being beaten up, the wizards of today were very cautious and knew how to respect the gods. It was not a big problem for the wizards to have enough curiosity. The key was to know their own strength. If they wanted to study the divine sin, their profession level had to be at least level 40. After all, the divine sin's challenge rating was as high as level 35. Without enough power to suppress the divine sin, it would be suicidal to study it. It seems that there's a high possibility that the divine sin below was born from the god's corpse. However, I don't know how much power this divine sin has left after thousands of years. Su Len held his chin with one hand and rhythmically tapped the table with the other. After being sealed for a long time in an environment with a lack of elements, the power of the divine sin would also decline. If it was at its peak, Su Len definitely wouldn't stay. He would turn around and run without hesitation. After all, it was too difficult to kill, and he might accidentally send himself into the divine sin. Chapter 549. During the period of the Arcane Empire, the most dangerous monsters in the multiverse were counted. The most dangerous ones were the Archean Hatred, the Dragon of Hatred. However, the number of these Archean Hatred was very small. Many of them were sealed or sleeping in some corner of the multiverse. The second-tier monsters were the abominations. In fact, some people classified the abominations and the Archean hatred together. After all, some abominations were very powerful. The third-tier monsters were the Archean villains. Usually, the challenge level of the Archean villains was above level 25. The first Archean villains were said to be born from the fusion of evil gods and evil forces. The Archean villains had great power and were very corrosive, but their consciousness was usually very chaotic. The abomination. Hathaway said with a solemn expression, the power he radiated during this period of time has caused the beast to mutate. It means that his power is recovering. The wizard tower has been in disrepair for a long time and is short of energy. He is about to lose control. If we leave him alone and let him recover, it won't take long for this abomination to break free. By then, the whole northern land will be in a disaster. The reason why the Arcane Empire ranked the abominations and the Archean hatred at the top was that they had the power to destroy a main material plane. As long as they were given enough time, these monsters could easily destroy a rich plane. It seems that we have to get rid of this abomination, Su-Len said in a low voice. The battle of the abomination is very dangerous. Legends can't intervene, so Alex and Karina can only stay here. But Alex and Karina said anxiously, but they were interrupted by Su-Len. No buts. Someone needs to guard this place. Besides, you don't even have legends. Are you going to die? At last, under Sullen's suggestion, Alex and Karina finally agreed. After discussing for a while, Su-Len said to the Tower Spirit, where is the abomination sealed? Tower Master, you can enter through the passage on the 3rd floor of the Wizard Tower. As the Tower Genie spoke, a three-dimensional image of the Sorcerer Tower appeared beside it. The location of the abomination was clearly marked on it. Su-Len and Hathaway checked once to make sure that they had not missed anything. Only then did they walk down to the basement of the Magus Tower. Soon, the two arrived at the basement of the Magus Tower. The closer they got, the denser the negative energy in the surroundings. There was even a layer of gray fog in the basement. Sizzle. Strange noises could be heard, and then some looming figures appeared not far away. Be careful, there should be a lot of undead here. As soon as he finished speaking, a sharp cry rang out. Immediately after, the fog in front of him churned, and bone spears shot rapidly towards Su-Len. Following which, dozens of undead appeared in the fog and quickly rushed towards Su-Len. Command, intimidate. Group undead hold spell. 2 spiritual lights flashed quickly on Hathaway's body, and the undead that were rushing towards Su-Len instantly stopped. In a normal battle, wizards were usually in charge of controlling the field. The real damage output would depend on the Grand Sword Master, especially when the Grand Sword Master cooperated with a wizard. The terrifying lethality of a Grand Sword Master was unreasonably strong. Su-Len waved his storm battle halberd and whizzed past. All the undead that were controlled by Hathaway were directly chopped into pieces by him. Clang! 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 A large number of soul crystals fell. Hathaway gently waved her hand, and the soul crystals on the ground flew directly into her hand. After casually putting away the soul crystals, the two of them continued to move forward. The basement of the Wizard Tower was dark. This place had been corroded by the power of the abomination. The two of them arrived at the 3rd floor of the basement. According to the markings on the map, they quickly found the passage that led to the seal. At this moment, the two of them suddenly heard a strange crying sound. Su-Len stopped in his tracks. Abomination. He's right here. Lightning flashed on Sullen's body, and his eyes looked into the depths of the passage. Although Su-Len had not studied the abominations, he knew that their power was strong and strange. Ordinary legendary wizards could only play a supporting role when facing them. If one really wanted to wrestle with the abominations, one would have to at least reach the level of an astral wizard. The abominations seemed to have sensed their arrival. The strange crying sound became more and more obvious. The gray fog was tumbling, and they could clearly see that there were countless undead howling in it. "Hide behind me." Sulen grabbed Hathaway with one hand and pulled her behind him. After saying that, a strong power of lightning quickly gathered from his body. The entire space could feel the sudden increase of the surrounding electrostatic force field. Then, dazzling lightning tore through the darkness and completely dispersed the layer of fog. The power of lightning continued to gather. The power of lightning on Sulen's body was completely opposite to the negative energy. At this moment, Sulen completely detonated the power of lightning. Endless power of lightning exploded at this moment, and the entire space was as bright as day. Countless lightning snakes moved back and forth in the air. The surrounding fog tumbled violently as if it was boiling. The ghosts and undead creatures hiding in the fog screamed, and their bodies melted quickly. Suddenly, a large number of soul crystals fell to the ground. The surrounding fog dissipated completely. At this moment, they could clearly feel a hexagram rune array. Silver chains entangled back and forth, firmly locking the center of the altar. At this moment, Sulen finally saw the monster in the seal clearly. "Be careful, Sulen. It was born from the corpse of an ancient god." Sulen looked at the monster in the seal in front of him. This was a completely distorted human figure. It looked extremely strange. Its limbs were excessively long, and its head was very large. There were wrinkles on it, and it looked very ugly. Its mouth was full of sharp teeth, and its lower body was connected to a huge corpse. After seeing Sulen and Garen, the monster let out a sharp cry. Then, a spatial force suddenly appeared. The teleportation light flashed, and a Baylor appeared in front of them. Baylor Demon. Challenge rating 18+, the Baylor Demon was burning with endless flames. As soon as it appeared, it let out a roar. Then, Zhou Zhong's whip whipped towards Sulen. Sulen waved his Storm War halberd and directly flicked the whip away. Just as Sulen was about to go forward, Hathaway's voice suddenly sounded in his mind, "Sulen, wait. I've prepared to stop time. Later, take the opportunity to kill the Baylor Demon." "Okay." Sulen agreed without thinking. Hathaway gently waved her staff, and an invisible force quickly gathered. Then, a powerful magic instantly burst out. Time Stop, legendary spell. Chapter 550. The entire world seemed to have been paused at this moment. Everything froze at this moment, motionless, like a photo that had been frozen. Time Stop has been successfully activated. It lasted for 10 seconds. Sulen only felt a strange force sweeping over him, and then everything around him became still in an instant. "Do it." Hathaway's voice sounded from the bottom of his heart. Thunder Realm. Infinite power of thunder and lightning gushed out of Sulen's body in an instant. In the next second, Sulen's figure appeared beside the Baylor in an instant. Weakness detection. Thunder Slash. The light blue power of thunder and lightning flashed through the air. The Baylor that had just been summoned to the material plane was motionless. It was like a statue within the range of the Time Stop spell. The Storm Battle halberd carried light blue thunder and swept across in an instant, directly splitting the Baylor into two. However, the effect of the Time Stop spell did not appear. At the same time, after casting the Time Stop spell, Hathaway quickly cast the next spell with the power of the Mystery Lock. Summon Elemental Legion, Dimensional Summoning Gate plus Summon Fire Elemental Elder, Maximum Spell. A space gate opened, and scorching flames rushed out of the dimensional gate. The temperature of the entire basement soared by dozens of degrees in an instant. This was a teleportation gate leading to the fire elemental plane. After the teleportation gate opened, an angry roar was heard, followed by a flash of fire. A group of tall fire elementals walked out of the space gate. Summon Elemental Legion was a legendary spell. After casting, it could summon an elemental elder and several or more giant fire elementals. Casting 2 legendary spells in a row was also a great burden for Hathaway. Fortunately, after mastering the mystery lock, Su Len had re-injected enough energy into the mystery lock. With the power of the mystery lock, Hathaway could cast the spell easily. Time Stop did not really stop time. In fact, this spell changed the flow of time in an area, making the surrounding time flow extremely slow. It looked like it had stopped, but Hathaway and Su Len were not affected. Of course, although the effect of this spell was powerful, it also had its own flaw, which was that it was ineffective against gods. Therefore, those who wanted to rely on Time Stop to kill gods would die miserably. A breeze blew, and the effect of Time Stop disappeared. A thin blood mark appeared on the body of the Baylor in an instant. The blood mark continued to expand and finally split into 2. The Baylor's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, and then it lost control of its body. Burning explosion. A dazzling flame suddenly rose from the Baylor's corpse, which had been cut in 2. The next second, a powerful explosion sounded. In the midst of this explosion, a pale gray soul let out an angry roar and was about to teleport back to the abyss. However, before the teleportation could be activated, a dimensional anchor instantly struck the soul, and the teleportation light was instantly interrupted. Immediately after, another light flew by. Soul Binding Spell, a magic gem to pull the Baylor's 2s to the soul to pull 2s to us. When the effect of Time Stop disappeared, in the dimensional gate opened by Hathaway, a fanatical giant fire elemental and fire elemental elder appeared in this underground space. It was not easy to kill an abomination. In the multiverse, although abominations were powerful and hated all living creatures, their strongest point was their almost immortal vitality. Although abominations were not as powerful as gods, for some reason, they were more destructive. In the era of the Arcane Empire, there was a special proposition on how to kill an abomination, god, ancient evil. As soon as this topic appeared, it was studied by many arcanists. After all, the great arcanists who liked to court death had done such things in the past. In theory, the easiest way to kill an abomination was to use the power of the god of death. The power of the god of death represented the end of all living creatures. For others, abominations might be difficult to kill, but the god of death was an exception. Unfortunately, the power of the god of death was not something that anyone could master. If one mastered the divinity of death or had the artifact of the god of death, one could also kill an abomination. However, these 2 things could not be obtained. Without these 2 things, it would be very difficult to kill an abomination. Like gods, abominations had divine shields. Although they were not as powerful as gods, they were still able to withstand several legendary spells at once. Moreover, as long as the divine shields were not broken once, the divine shields would always be repaired. Therefore, after a lot of calculations, the arcanists came to a conclusion. That was, they had to use saturation attacks in a very short time to let the divine shields reach the critical point and break them. In order to meet this requirement, Hathaway deliberately summoned the elemental army and wanted to use this method to kill the abomination. A world without flames is too sad. Burn, let the flames ignite the whole world. After the fire elemental elder arrived, it was immediately full of dissatisfaction with the surrounding environment. All fire elemental were arsonists. For them, flames were beauty, flames were everything, and they would ignite everything they saw. With the help of the summoning contract, Hathaway directly ordered the fire elemental to attack the abomination with her powerful mental strength. At the same time, Su Len, who had activated the thunder domain, also rushed forward. Because of the seal, the abomination had been sealed there and could not move at all. Moreover, under the seal for thousands of years, its strength had dropped to the bottom. Now was the best time to kill it. Endless flames continued to explode. The fire elemental elders were forcibly suppressed by Hathaway and could only vent their anger on the abomination. As a legendary creature and an elemental life form, the fire elemental elder had all kinds of fire abilities. In addition, there was a group of giant fire elemental elders that were 1 level lower than him. The destructive power of these arsonists was very shocking. At the same time, Sulen did not hold back either. The powerful power of thunder and lightning kept flashing, and the storm halberd in Sulen's hand was swung like a windmill, constantly attacking. Ripples kept appearing on the divine shields like water waves. The abomination screamed, and a shock wave instantly rushed towards Sulen. The space around Sulen was shrouded by countless thunder and lightning. Then, a big net that seemed to be made of thunder and lightning appeared, and it shone with a dazzling light. The thunder domain instantly appeared under the impact of the divine powers. The divine powers that were full of evil and destruction completely disappeared under the countless thunder and lightning. Chapter 551. Heat waves kept surging, and flames kept spreading to the surroundings. The abomination's divine power shield was also on the verge of collapsing. After all, the abomination was not a god, and it did not have the almost endless divine power of the god kingdom as a shield. Thunder slash. The storm battle halberd carried the terrifying power of thunder and lightning and smashed down on the divine power shield. Boom! The power of thunder and lightning and the divine power surged, and countless bolts of lightning burst out in an instant. The entire underground space trembled slightly. The divine power shield, which was already close to its limit, finally could not withstand Sulen's all-out attack. The divine power shield shattered at this moment. Life. Destruction. Kill him, the abomination's chaotic consciousness kept whispering. In the face of Sulen's attack, it did not retreat at all. Its hatred for the living and its chaotic and crazy consciousness made it attack all living things in a frenzy. They longed for destruction, and the purpose of their existence was to destroy everything. The thunder territory kept making crackling sounds. This was Sulen's territory and the abomination's territory fighting fiercely. Waves of pollution kept attacking, and as this power spread, Sulen clearly felt a chill run down his spine. His life force was slowly draining away. At this moment, a status appeared on his system panel. He was being eroded by the pollution territory, and his life force was continuously decreasing. If he did not deal with it, this speed of life force loss could quickly drain an ordinary person. Be careful. Hathaway's voice suddenly sounded. Lightning flashed, and Sulen's figure disappeared in an instant. At the same time, where Sulen had been standing, a sharp spike suddenly pierced out from the ground. Looking at the 1-meter-long spike, Sulen was terrified. If he was stabbed by this thing, his butthole would explode. A sharp claw pierced through the void. In the next second, the space behind Sulen cracked open, and the claw scratched at his back. It was as if Sulen had an eye in the back of his head. The storm halberd didn't even bother to look at it. It instantly blocked the claw, and the power of thunder and lightning erupted, completely purifying the evil power on the claw. The abomination roared in pain. Its tone was sharp, and a strange whisper rang out in Sulen's mind. This voice was filled with hatred, unwillingness, madness, and brutality. It made one feel irritable and wanted to destroy everything. This was a power that abominations were born with. These gods, who were born in death and died before they were born, were a curse to all the living. They hated everything in this world. A deformed human monster was frantically struggling to break free from the sealing chains on its body. Silver rune chains were deeply integrated into its flesh. His crazy eyes stared at Sulen, and then another divine power attack followed. Bang! Dazzling lightning burst out, and the power of lightning around Sulen's body kept colliding and dissipating. He couldn't help but step back. At the same time, a sharp claw scratched at his head. Sulen's body flashed with lightning, and he disappeared instantly. At the same time, the surrounding fire elemental elders led many giant fire elementals to attack the abomination crazily. These fire elemental creatures didn't have vital points, and they couldn't dodge the attacks of the abomination. They attacked directly. Under the attacks of the abomination, the energy shield on the surface of Sulen's and Hathaway's bodies kept shattering. Only half of the summoned fire elementals were left. However, the crazy fire elementals didn't care about this at all. Fire elementals were summoned elemental creatures. After they died, they would be resurrected in the fire elemental plane. Devour divinity. The twisted abomination monster suddenly turned into a gray python and pounced on Su Len, trying to swallow him completely. The divinity on Sullen's body was very attractive to it. Thunder Spear. The blue power of lightning gathered in Sullen's hand, and a spear made completely of lightning appeared. In the next second, lightning flashed, and the entire underground space was lit up. The thunder spear hit the gray python with the sound of wind and thunder. The gray python was nailed to the ground in an instant. Endless power of lightning exploded at this moment, and the evil power that formed the gray python was purified instantly. The gray python disappeared completely in the lightning. The gray evil power turned into threads and was absorbed by the abomination again. Even so, it wasn't easy to bear. Rumble. As the ground trembled, the abominations became more and more berserk. Not being able to kill Su Luen made them feel very berserk, and the abominations became more and more dangerous. Apart from their own power, they could also use their divine power. The berserk abominations instantly revealed sharp claws and continuously attacked Su Luen. It had the power to control space. Space cracks kept opening, and any part of Sullen's body could be attacked by the abomination. This space ability was very disgusting. Although it was trapped and couldn't move, it could attack the surroundings continuously through these spaces. The target was small and fast, and there was almost no warning. If Su Len hadn't awakened the sixth sense talent, which gave him the ability to predict danger in advance, he would have been caught by the abomination. Although there would be some space fluctuations when space spells were used, the time was too short. Hathaway wanted to use space imprisonment, but it was torn apart by the abomination. The abomination could only tear a small space crack each time, but Hathaway's space imprisonment needed to cover a large area. It was a waste of effort to break the surface. The ferocious claws kept attacking, and Sullen's storm battle halberd danced quickly to counterattack. Dark devouring claw. The sharp claws were mixed with strong evil power. However, the target wasn't Su Len, but Hathaway, who had been hiding behind. Dodge. Sullen's body flashed, and the storm battle halberd was waved quickly. Hathaway didn't panic at all in the face of the abomination's attack. Her body flashed, and she disappeared instantly. At the same time, a frightening elemental wave appeared. Hathaway's body appeared on the other side of the abomination, and a gray magic ball with strong elemental waves flew out instantly. Annihilation magic ball. Boom. Roar. The abomination roared in pain, and the annihilation magic ball melted a part of its body. Drops of black blood splattered on the ground. After the attack worked, Hathaway didn't chase after it. Her body flashed and disappeared instantly. The moment she disappeared, a sharp bone spur pierced out from the ground. Thunder slash. Su Len waved the storm battle halberd and appeared around the abomination. Then, he slashed at the abomination's body. Slash. The sharp halberd cut a hideous wound on the abomination's body. Chapter 552. The earth trembled. The shockwaves from the battle between Su Len and the abomination kept coming. If it weren't for the fact that the area where the abomination was sealed was a special half-plane, the entire wizard tower might have collapsed. Even so, there were still continuous vibrations. On the astrology platform, Alex and Karina were looking at the screen projected by the tower spirit in the hall. It was the scene of the battle between Su Len and the abomination. However, Su Len was moving too fast on the screen, so the two couldn't see the battle clearly. They could only determine Sullen's position through the flashing lightning in the air. The fire in the projected image was gradually extinguished. There weren't many fire elements summoned by Hathaway left. The battle was getting more and more intense. Although Su Len would hurt the abomination to a certain extent every time he attacked, the abomination could recover quickly by relying on the god's corpse that had merged with him. What should we do? Can Surin and Hathaway win? Looking at the picture in front of her, Karina asked Alex with some uncertainty. Alex, who was eating sunflower seeds with relish, came back to her senses. She stared at Karina with her eyes wide open and said with uncertainty, Sulen should be able to win. If he wasn't confident, Sulen would have told us to retreat. If they couldn't win, they should run. This was what Sulen told them. If they met an enemy who was stronger than them, they should never fight head-on. There was no shame in running if they couldn't win. It was okay even if they suffered some losses. They just had to get back at the enemy in the future. This level of battle wasn't something that the two of them could interfere with. Therefore, even if they were anxious, they couldn't do anything. If an enemy below the legendary level entered the battlefield, they probably wouldn't even be able to withstand a single attack from the abomination. Rumble. The shockwaves from the battle came, and even the wizard tower shook slightly. The abomination became even crazier. Sulen's attack just now had made it feel intense pain. As an abomination that was born from the corpse of an ancient god and was later trapped in this place for thousands of years, the anger in its heart had made its consciousness extremely chaotic. The abomination released all the resentment that it had accumulated for thousands of years on Sulen. It could be said that it would fight Sulen to the death. Boom! A blast of divine power hit Sulen in an instant. The energy shield around Sulen could no longer withstand it and shattered with a bang. It turned into specks of light and disappeared. A bolt of lightning flashed across Sulen's body, and he disappeared instantly. Great disintegration. A green spell instantly shot towards the abomination, and the body that was hit instantly turned into powder. The abomination howled in pain, and its dark and crazy eyes instantly stared at Hathaway. Then it let out a roar, and a sound wave more powerful than Sulen's war roar burst out. At this moment, Sulen felt his mind go blank, but with his strong constitution, he recovered in an instant. However, the abomination took advantage of this opportunity to attack him again. In just a moment, the abomination's sharp claws had already appeared in front of him. Rip! There was no time to dodge, and Sulen's arm was instantly cut open. The intense pain made Sulen counterattack instantly. The storm halberd tore through the air, and with infinite lightning, it instantly slashed the abomination's arm. The sharp halberd cut through the abomination's skin and along its muscles. The power of lightning also burst out at this moment. Under Sulen's great strength, the abomination's arm was directly cut off from the forearm. At the same time, Hathaway, who was further away, felt as if her heart had been hit hard. Her whole body stiffened, and her body entered a state of shock at this moment. At the same time, a spatial crack suddenly appeared above her head, and the abomination's sharp claws suddenly attacked. The sudden attack made it impossible for Sulen to help. Hathaway was about to be hit. As a sorcerer, Hathaway's physical fitness was far inferior to Sulen's. If she was hit, she would be seriously injured even if she did not die. However, as a sorcerer and a legendary sorcerer, Hathaway had many ways to save her life. Almost at the moment when the abomination attacked, rays of magic light appeared on her body. Greater chain accident activated. Spell sequence activated. Spell activated. Activate greater teleportation. Activate greater energy barrier. Activate greater deflection field. Activate annihilation ball. Activate spell order, shock. As a sorcerer, Hathaway was very clear about her own weaknesses. Therefore, she set the condition for triggering the accident spell to be controlled. No matter if it was stun, shock, or immobilize, the greater chain accident spell would be triggered automatically. The abomination's attack was indeed unexpected. Hathaway was shocked by the enemy at that moment and lost control of her body. This situation was just in line with the accident spell that Hathaway had set. A series of light flashed, and Hathaway's figure instantly disappeared, just in time to dodge the abomination's attack. She also automatically counterattacked. The annihilation ball instantly hit the abomination's claws. The claws seemed to be soaked in sulfuric acid and quickly melted like a burning candle. The abominations had many strange and powerful abilities. They had divinity and many attacks. Even Sullen's physical fitness could not be completely immune to them, let alone Hathaway. Fortunately, Hathaway had practiced this situation in the battle simulation. The spell sequence on her sorcerer's robe was prepared for this situation. When Hathaway reappeared, the abomination immediately captured her position. This was not difficult. After all, the space here was not too big. The abomination's power could cover the entire area. Then, the abomination launched another attack at Hathaway. Sharp bone spurs instantly pierced out of the ground. Crack! With a soft sound, the energy barrier around Hathaway's body broke in an instant. However, Hessie had already regained consciousness and regained control of her body. The staff in her hand flashed slightly, and then the space around Hathaway instantly became distorted. Chaotic space. The abomination's bone spurs, which attacked by tearing the space apart, brushed past Hathaway and did not cause any damage to her. Sword of Annihilation. A light flashed, and a strange longsword instantly appeared in Hathaway's hand. In the next second, the longsword was swung, and the abomination's bone spurs were directly cut in half. Sullen's reaction was very fast. Just as Hathaway was casting the spell, a thunder spear appeared in his hand. Lightning flashed and instantly hit the abomination's body. The powerful thunder power exploded, and the abomination's body trembled at this moment. It's finally paralyzed. After seeing the effect, Su Luan cursed inwardly. All this time, his lightning power had been invincible in battle. His super high paralysis effect had been effective time and time again. However, this time, when facing an abomination, his lightning power's paralysis effect was reduced to the bottom. Chapter 553. The power of thunder and lightning was one of the most powerful forces that Su Luan had mastered. It had always been destructive and had a very high chance of paralysis. Even the enemies of the legendary rank would be restrained in all aspects when facing it. It ignored most of the test of fortitude and paralyzed the enemy. Basically, all creatures of the legendary rank and above had varying degrees of resistance, especially warrior classes. Their resistance to control effects was even higher. Giant dragons' strong bodies allowed them to be immune to 80% of the control effects. As for ancient evils, their immunity was even higher. These monsters had a high chance of being paralyzed by Sullen's power of thunder. However, when facing the abomination, the paralysis effect of Sullen's power of thunder was reduced to the lowest. A strange power weakened the effect of Sullen's power of thunder. This way, the ceiling effect of Sullen's power of thunder was not ideal. Of course, if the power of thunder's paralysis effect was not good, the other control effects would be even weaker. Hathaway's order, shock, was directly immune to it. At this point in the battle, Su Luan had a headache. The abomination's recovery ability was too strong. It was connected to the god's corpse and could continuously draw power from the god's corpse to recover. In addition to its own recovery ability, it was too difficult to kill it. If only Chris was here. As a legendary succubus, with her damage output, this abomination would not be able to withstand it. Su Luan thought to himself. Suddenly, a beam of light descended from the sky. Immediately after, a tall figure emerged from the beam of light. The figure's silvery white body exuded a chilling aura. Its tall figure exuded an oppressive aura, and its sharp twin blades gave off a chilling sensation. To Su Luan's surprise, the guardian magic statue appeared on the battlefield. Activating battlefield communication, mental link established, Guardian Golem activated, transferring battle command authority, Enigma suppression ability activated, Tower Master, battle preparations are ready. Please give the battle order. The cold mechanical voice of the Tower Genie sounded in Su Luan and Hathaway's hearts. At the same time, Alex and Karina's voices sounded in their hearts. Su Luan, do your best. We've already blessed the Guardian Golem with spells, so we can start the battle immediately. Yes, we must kill that monster. Don't worry, we'll definitely destroy it this time. Su Len said proudly when he saw the guardian golem in front of him. The guardian golem had fought with Su Len for a long time. Even if it was slightly weaker than Su Len, it still had the combat power of a high-level legendary mage. With the addition of the guardian golem, its combat power had completely met the requirements. Activating elemental fission shield. Chi raising chop activated. Weakness detection activated. Silver sacred sword, legendary, charging. Armor break effect activated. Sharpness effect activated. Greater haste activated. Along with the tower genie's cold voice, the guardian golem instantly went all out. Summon the undead army. Gusts of chilly winds suddenly blew, and the surrounding fog quickly gathered. Hazy shadows appeared one after another. These vengeful spirits that had been awakened by the abomination emitted a strong aura of death. As soon as they appeared, they pounced on Su Len. Summon evil creatures. A portal appeared, and in the next second, various twisted and ugly monsters appeared. A black mass of monsters surged out from the dimensional portal. Twisted shadows, mutated monsters, petrified lizards, spiked lions, and so on. After sensing danger, the abomination immediately summoned an army of monsters. These monsters in front of him instantly crowded the surrounding space. There were so many of them that they could even fight a medium-sized war. After seeing this situation, Su Len did not care at all. To be honest, although the number of monsters and undead summoned by the abomination this time was large, their quality was too poor. One must know that he used to be invincible on the battlefield. The army of monsters in front of him was completely insignificant. The guardian golem's tall figure rushed up directly, and its two demon slayer blades were invincible. None of the monsters were a match for it. Wherever it passed, it was like cutting chives. Su Len took out an exquisite flag, and the enormous power of thunder and lightning in his body exploded instantly. Infinite power of thunder and lightning gathered in this space, and in the next second, countless thunderbolts exploded instantly. Lightning storm. A strong power of thunder and lightning rose from Su Len's body. The storm and lightning enveloped the entire space, and countless thunderbolts slithered around like thunder snakes. The originally crazy monsters seemed to be shocked by the scene in front of them. At this time, Su Len looked like the legendary thunder god. Countless thunderbolts appeared under his control, and in the next second, thousands of thunderbolts exploded instantly. The entire world was filled with the sound of thunder and lightning, and for a time, screams could be heard one after another. After activating the thunder domain and borrowing the power of the wind dragon flag, Su Len once again performed the lightning storm. Although the power of the lightning storm was somewhat weakened because it was in an underground environment and could not borrow the weather, the area of the lightning storm was not very large. As a result, the range of the lightning storm was smaller, and the thunderbolts were more concentrated. The lightning storm enveloped the entire space, and all the monsters had nowhere to hide. Even the abominations could only take this attack head-on. Thunderbolts raged in the underground world, and the summoned undead army had no place to hide under such a saturated attack. The power of thunder and lightning was more harmful to the undead creatures. In just a breath's time, a large number of undead creatures were directly purified by the thunder and lightning. After the lightning storm lasted for more than 10 seconds, all the summoned monsters were wiped out. The ground was filled with corpses that had been electrocuted into talking corpses. Even the abomination had many wounds on its body, but with its powerful recovery ability, these wounds were quickly healed. The power of thunder and lightning dissipated, and a tall figure quickly rushed over. With a flash of cold light, the sharp claws that had just grown out of the abomination were cut off again. The guardian golem, which had been strengthened by the weakness attack, kept attacking the abomination. Facing this kind of golem puppet that could not be controlled, had thick skin, and was immune to all kinds of negative statuses, the abomination did not have a good way to deal with it. Su Len put away the wind dragon flag. He had consumed a lot of energy just now, but in the thunder domain, his recovery speed was very fast. With a flash of thunder and lightning, Su-Len appeared in front of the abomination with the storm halberd in his hand. The human and the golem were like butterflies flying through flowers, constantly attacking the abomination rapidly. Many wounds appeared, and the abomination roared angrily and attacked crazily, but its counterattack was getting weaker and weaker. Chapter 554. Su-Len and the guardian magic statue attacked quickly. The man and the magic statue were like the most brilliant surgeons, cutting the abomination quickly. A large number of wounds quickly appeared on the abomination's body. Under their crazy attacks, the abomination was completely passive. In the battle just now, Su-Len discovered a weakness of the abomination that was not a weakness. When Su-Len and the rest's attacks exceeded the abomination's recovery speed, the abomination would stop attacking and enter a defensive state, increasing its recovery speed. At this time, the abomination would not take the initiative to attack. Although it could not kill the abomination, it could delay its movements. After discovering this rule, Su-Len had already thought of a way to deal with it. The storm halberd was waved quickly, and the magic slaying blade swept across. The abomination's body was now full of holes. Great disintegration spell. A green light flew out from Hathaway's magic staff and hit the abomination's body instantly. The area dissipated like sand. The abomination's recovery ability was suppressed, and its aura became weaker and weaker. Its recovery speed also became slower. After seeing this, Hathaway immediately waved her magic staff and started to cast a spell. Soul Banishment. Rays of silver-white light appeared, and countless runes quickly gathered and merged. Finally, they turned into silver-white chains that pierced the abomination's body instantly. These chains pierced through the abomination's body. Then, as it roared crazily, Hathaway began to slowly drag the abomination's soul out of its body. However, as an abomination, even if Su-Len and the guardian magic statue worked together to severely injure it to the brink of death, it was still very difficult to drag its soul out. As Hathaway's magic power continued to deplete, soul shadows were drawn out one by one, wailing. However, these were not the real souls of the abomination. These wailing souls were just pitiful people who had been devoured by the abomination. They were used as consumables by the abomination to resist Hathaway's soul banishment. Damn it! Why are there so many souls? Didn't you say that he was sealed in here? Many souls flew out of the abomination's body, but his soul still didn't appear. Su-Len couldn't help but curse. Throwing out a large number of magical gemstones, Su-Len casually cast a soul-trapping spell to guide these souls into the gemstones. Seeing that Hathaway and the abomination were in a tug-of-war, Su-Len instantly released countless lightning bolts. These lightning bolts quickly gathered in mid-air, and in the blink of an eye, 9 purple chains that were shining with lightning appeared. Thunder Prison. 9 purple lightning chains instantly pierced through the abomination's body. Together with Hathaway, they tried to drag the abomination's soul out. Astral Projection. A golden light suddenly rose from Hathaway's body. In the next second, a translucent figure that looked exactly like Hathaway walked out of her body. The silver soul had a hazy shadow. This was the form of her soul. Countless inscriptions were engraved on her soul. This was the power that Hathaway had added to herself. After activating the astral projection, Hathaway's power increased greatly. The silver chains dragged even harder. Soon, under the combined efforts of Su-Len and Hathaway, a dark, twisted, ferocious, and indescribable soul was dragged out of the abomination's body. This wasn't a complete soul in human form. Instead, it was a terrifying soul that was pieced together by countless soul fragments. It looked terrifying and ferocious. The evil energy in the surroundings quickly became denser. An extremely crazy and hateful consciousness began to attack Su-Len's mind. He struggled, roared, and tried to escape frantically. He resisted the pulling power of the silver chains and the purple lightning chains. However, it was obvious that the abomination had already lost in this tug-of-war. The abomination struggled frantically, but his soul was still being dragged out bit by bit. What a terrifying monster! Sulen could feel the abomination's desire to destroy everything in front of him. He couldn't help but be shocked. Sulen pulled the lightning chains and bound the abomination's soul tightly. Then, endless lightning burst out from his body. It's time to end this, Sulen shouted. He raised the storm halberd in his right hand and slashed at the abomination's soul. As a dazzling lightning flashed, the abomination's soul was cut in half. The abomination's soul was cut in half, but it still didn't die. However, its struggle became much weaker. Sulen and Hathaway easily dragged the two parts of the abomination's soul over. Although the soul had been pulled out, the abomination still didn't die. It was very difficult to kill a monster of this level. Even if the physical body was killed, as long as the soul escaped, it would be resurrected soon. Sulen wouldn't make such a mistake. Soul Suppressor. Hathaway chanted an ancient spell. Her huge soul was like a giant. The silver rune chain emitted a dazzling light and pulled half of the abomination's soul into a high-quality magical gemstone bit by bit. Sulen also took out a high-quality magical gemstone and sealed the other half of the soul. As if sensing danger, the abomination's soul struggled and roared madly, trying to break free. However, at this moment, the abomination was too weak to change the situation. In the end, the soul was split into two and was completely sealed in the gemstone as it screamed. The lightning chains shrunk instantly and appeared on the surface of the gemstone like strange patterns. The moment the abomination's soul was sealed in the gemstone, the originally pure gemstone became pitch black. At the same time, it emitted an evil and blasphemous spiritual light. The entire gemstone looked very evil. It had been turned into an evil gemstone by the abomination's soul. If this gemstone fell into the hands of an ordinary person, they would be affected by the abomination's soul and fall into darkness. In the end, they would become the carrier of the abomination's resurrection. Sulen heaved a sigh of relief. He flipped his palm and put the gemstone into his storage space. Although this gemstone was very dangerous, it was also very precious. It contained a lot of divinity. Hathaway's huge figure waved her hand gently, and a spiritual light rose. Demon sealing formation. Runes danced and instantly sealed the gemstone that was emitting evil spiritual energy. Apart from looking a little black, this gemstone looked like an ordinary gemstone. Then, her soul turned into a spiritual light and returned to her body. As the soul was sealed, the abomination's body collapsed. Its power was quickly drained. After a few breaths, the abomination's body deteriorated rapidly. In the end, it became like a dried-up rotten wood. Chapter 555. The lightning dissipated, and the entire space became clear. Although Sulen did not carefully check how much divinity there was in the abomination's soul, it was definitely more than the divinity crystals he had obtained before. However, it would take a long time to extract the divinity and use it. This was also the method he used to kill the abomination. Sulen did not have the power of death, so he could only rely on this method slowly. After the battle ended, Sulen let out a long sigh of relief. There were more spoils of war on the battlefield, and the most important one was the corpse of the ancient god. Although an abomination was born from this corpse, the corpse still had extraordinary benefits. The abomination did not inherit all the divinity in the corpse, so there was still a lot of divinity left in the corpse. In addition to the divinity, there were also a large number of mid-level and low-level soul crystals obtained from killing many undead, which could provide raw materials for the golem factory. The corpse of the ancient god was huge. It was dozens of meters long, lying on the ground. One could imagine how tall it had been when it was alive. Even the tallest cloud giant in the material world was only close to its knees in front of it. This was a male god, and the corpse was somewhat broken. There was a hideous wound on the head and the heart of the corpse. It was obvious that this was the fatal wound that killed this god. It would be very troublesome to transport such a huge corpse out directly. Moreover, this kind of corpse was full of divinity. Once the news leaked, it would definitely be a disaster. By then, not to mention the legendary masters in the material world, even the gods would not be able to help but send their avatars to fight for it. By then, it was likely to cause a disaster like the time of troubles. After Su Len checked that there was no problem with the corpse, he added another layer of seal. After the abomination's soul was sealed, the corpse was directly separated from the corpse. After a final inspection and cleaning, Su Len and Hathaway were relieved. After sealing the space again, Su Len and Hathaway returned to the wizard tower with the guardian golem. Alex, Karina, I'll leave the rest to you. Hathaway and I need to rest first. If there's nothing important, don't disturb me. After saying that, Su Len directly found a room on the astrology platform and walked in. After getting rid of the abomination that was a ticking time bomb, the entire sorcerer tower could finally relax. Without the threat of the abomination, the restoration of the sorcerer's tower was on the right track. The wizard tower had been sealed off for thousands of years, and many parts of it had been damaged. The repair work was tedious, but the good thing was that the core area wasn't damaged. Alex and Karina could do the job. Su Len came to a room and waved his hand casually. A gust of wind blew through the room and cleared all the dust. Then, he closed the door and began to check his harvest. After the battle, Su Len did not pay attention to the system notification. He only had time to check it now. The battle is over. Congratulations, host. You have successfully killed an abomination. You have received 573,000 experience points. You have received God's Bone X1. Congratulations, host. You have successfully killed an abomination. You have received a Diamond Treasure Chest X5. You have received 1 legendary skill point. Congratulations, host. You have received an epic victory. Battle of the Abomination, Legendary Battle, May 1689 of the Huiwa calendar. A large number of mutated monsters appeared in your territory. In the process of investigating the cause, you found an ancient ruin. In the process of exploring the ruin, you learned that this ruin was used to suppress an abomination. At this time, as the seal was damaged, the supply of elemental energy was insufficient, and this abomination was about to break free. In order to prevent Northtown City from being destroyed, you finally decided to kill the abomination with Hathaway. In the 3rd floor of the Sorcerer Tower, in a strange space, you successfully killed the abomination with the help of Hathaway and the Tower Genie. With your return, this news will gradually spread, and your name will begin to spread across the continent. Sullen's prestige was now very high. If the entire continent was divided according to the arcane card game, Su Len alone would be a purple legendary card, and he also had a red faction card, Florence and Northwind Principality, as well as many follower cards. If he revealed all of his strength, Sullen's card would probably become an SSR Gold Godly card. Congratulations, host. Your experience points are full. You have leveled up. You are now level 31. You have received 2 free attribute points, 2 skill points, and 2 diamond treasure chests. Opening the system storage space, Su Luen saw 7 diamond treasure chests neatly placed in the storage space. Seeing this, Su Luen felt envious. After a long time, Su Luen finally calmed down and summoned a water ball. Su Luen carefully washed himself and then prepared to open the chests. Su Len opened the storage and took a deep breath. In the next second, he chose to open all the treasure chests. Congratulations, host. You have successfully opened the diamond treasure chest. You have received the item 9 Transformations Golden Pill *1 bottle. Congratulations, host. You have successfully opened the diamond treasure chest. You have received the item Nature Crystal *1 bottle. Congratulations, host. You have successfully opened the diamond treasure chest. You have received the item Advanced Legendary Soul Crystal *1 bottle. Congratulations, host. You have successfully opened the diamond treasure chest. You have received the item God's Blood *1 bottle. Congratulations, host. You have successfully opened the diamond treasure chest. You have received the item Time Orb *1 bottle. Congratulations, host. You have successfully opened the diamond treasure chest. You have received the item Hero Recruitment *1 bottle. Congratulations, host. You have successfully opened the diamond treasure chest. You have received the item Arcane Mechanics. The brilliance dissipated, and Su Len could not wait to take out the items to have a look. Su Len had already obtained 2 bottles of 9 transformations golden pill. He put them away immediately. He had also obtained the nature crystal. It was just nice that he could give it to the nature oak. This was also very beneficial to Xanthi. However, Xanthi was currently unable to absorb this energy. The advanced legendary soul crystal was a good item. This was an important material for creating advanced tower genie and advanced legendary golems. Next, Su Len picked up a crystal bottle and examined it. This was a red bottle of viscous liquid with a golden glow. It was God's blood. As the crystal bottle shook, a faint golden glow rippled out. Su Len used appraisal to appraise it. This was a bottle of God's blood. It could be used to create magic potions or create divine artifacts. It was very precious. Su Len immediately put the crystal bottle away. The time orb was a light blue pearl. It was about the size of a lychee. Its surface was as smooth as jade. After appraisal, it was actually a treasure that contained a trace of the law of time. Its effect was to reduce the difficulty of casting spells such as Time Stop. Unfortunately, Hathaway only knew Time Stop. She could not cast spells such as Time Reversal or Time Banishment. Chapter 556. In some ancient legends and myths, there was an ancient god called the Lord of Time and Space among the first ancient gods of order. However, he had never left any information, so arcanists had always doubted whether this ancient god really existed. In the multiverse, there were very few of his believers, but it was certain that those time dragons were the believers of this Lord of Time and Space. Wizards learned their space-time spells from the time dragons. Time dragons could be said to be masters of controlling time. They were born with the ability to control time. For example, they could cast spells like Time Stop at will. This was a very powerful legendary dragon species. They were also known as the chronological dragon, the epic dragon, or the eternal dragon. They rarely communicated with ordinary creatures. Time dragons liked to travel in time and explore the past or the future. When they found a potentially dangerous war, they would not hesitate to use their ability to end the war as soon as possible. Time dragons were also the only dragon species that was truly immortal. This kind of dragon was also the only one that did not collect treasures. Instead, it collected ordinary sundials and strange mechanical clocks. According to data, there were only a dozen or so time dragons in the multiverse. It was said that many time dragons had left the Crystal Wall System universe. In the same Crystal Wall System universe, they would usually form groups of 4 to 10 for the purpose of reproduction. Once all the female dragons were pregnant, the group party would end, and then it was very likely that they would never see each other again. Some lucky arcanists were lucky enough to communicate with time dragons and then learn time spells from them. This was how the famous legendary spell Time Stop came to be. It was said that some arcanists studied and imitated the breath of time dragons to create spells. The breath of time dragons had 2 effects. One was to steal time. They could spit out the breath of time that wizards were immune to. It would directly steal time from the opponent, causing an irreversible and permanent aging effect. It was said that some of the breath of time dragons could easily turn a human from a baby to an old man. The second effect of the breath was to exile time. It was also unavoidable. Its effect was to directly throw the enemy out of time. The enemy would completely disappear and be unable to move until the effect of the breath disappeared and they were captured by time again. These 2 dragon breaths were very powerful. Time Exile was a spell that imitated the Time Dragon's breath. However, the effect of this spell was far inferior to the Time Dragon's breath. Even so, this spell was very powerful, and very few people could master it. Now that he had the Spacetime Orb, a treasure that could be considered a divine artifact, he would need to search for and collect time-related spells in the future. Spacetime Pearl, a mystical pearl condensed from the power of spacetime. It contains a trace of the laws of time and space. Wearing this pearl will greatly reduce the difficulty of casting time spells. Moreover, the wearer will grasp a portion of the power of time. Effect: immune to slow. Immune to dimensional anchor and other positioning spells. Immunity time stop. Time control. The effects of time and space spells are increased by 100%. Casting difficulty is lowered by 1 spell rank. Time control: you have the power to control time in a small area, which allows you to move faster. With this spacetime orb, Hathaway's strength had increased by a large margin. The most obvious one was the time stop spell. The difficulty of casting it was directly reduced from the 9th circle to the 8th circle. Coupled with the effect of controlling time, it had reached the point of instant casting. If she could master other time-related spells, the role of this orb could be maximized. Su Len decided to give this spacetime orb to Hathaway to use. The last 2 items were left. One of them was a hero recruitment token. This thing looked very similar to the recruitment token he had obtained before, but there was an additional word, hero, on the token. After using appraisal, he found that this thing just solved his urgent need. Hero recruitment token: this is a promise from a hero. After using it, you can recruit 1 to 3 wandering heroes to join your command. Of course, you need to pay the hero's reward. Note: the user's identity will affect the quality of the recruited heroes. Su Len had decided to build Deepwater City some time ago and was ready to open up sea trade. Originally, he was worried about the lack of manpower and that there would be no one to manage Deepwater City. As for letting the nobles of the Kingdom of Florence manage it, Su Len did not trust them. Now that he had the hero recruitment token, this problem was solved. Su Len put away the hero recruitment token. He planned to use it when he returned to Northgard City. The last item was a book called Magic Mechanics. Su Len briefly flipped through it. This book recorded a lot of knowledge about magic mechanics. It was all-encompassing and had many applications. For example, it could be used to upgrade golems, the energy channel of wizard towers, the structure of buildings, and even the construction of floating space city needed a lot of knowledge. After putting away these things, Su Len began to check the rewards after this upgrade. After all his attributes had reached 50, if he wanted to increase his attributes, he would need 3 free attribute points to increase 1 attribute point. Su Len was not in a hurry to increase his attributes. His current attributes were already very high, so he did not lack 1 or 2 free attribute points. As for the 9 transformation golden pills, he was going to give some to the others. After all, Alex, Karina, Phyllis, Xanthi, and his 2 personal maids had not reached the legendary level. It would be better to give it to them. Su Len chose to use the 2 normal skill points he had obtained when learning spells. These skill points could speed up the learning of spells. As for the legendary skill point, Su Len planned to use it to upgrade his Iron Will talent. This talent was a little special and very useful. When fighting against high-level monsters, he would often encounter Iron Will. Just like a dragon, ordinary people did not even have the courage to stand beside it, let alone attack it. Iron Will might seem useless, but it was indispensable. After using the legendary skill points to upgrade, Iron Will talent was upgraded to Advanced Iron Will. If he wanted to upgrade it to legendary, he would need to use 1 more legendary skill point. In addition to these gains, Su Len also obtained a piece of God's bone. After using Identify, he found that it was a high-grade material. God's bone looked similar to bones, but it was made of jade. There was a trace of golden light on it, and it was very hard. It could be used to make high-grade magic items. It was a very precious material. Su Len wondered if he could try to make a divine item with the god's bone and god's blood. P.S. Read a book. The world enters the Age of Lords. Read it if you like. Chapter 557. After putting these things away, Su Len checked the divinity crystals that he had just obtained. There were 2 divinity crystals this time. The one in Sullen's hand had about 8 points of divinity. The one in Hathaway's hand should be about the same as the one in his hand. It added up to 16 points of divinity. This abomination had more divinity than many demigods. This was because the great Arcanist had sealed it so that it was not completely born. There was still a part of the divinity in the god's body that had not been absorbed by it. If this abomination broke the seal and absorbed all the divinity, its divinity would probably reach the level of a weak god. Of course, with more divinity, the abomination's strength would also increase. By then, it would be Sullen's turn to be unlucky. Su Len did not mind having more divinity. Although he did not intend to walk the path of a god, it was still good to use divinity to increase his strength. In fact, if Su Len was willing to become a god, he could establish a church and preach. Of course, at this time, he could only be called a false god. The minimum requirement to become a god was to have 30 points of divinity, which was the level of a weak god. At the same time, he needed to master the power of rules and condense it into a divine personality. Su Len was still a little short of this. He could condense the divine personality of the thunder god. As for the clergy, there were many choices. If Su Len chose to become a god, it could be done in about 10 or 20 years. However, he would be trapped in this universe of the crystal wall system and could not go to other crystal wall systems. Although gods were powerful, there were many restrictions. As a god, he had to fulfill the obligations of his clergy. At the same time, he could not leave the god's kingdom at will. If it was only for 180 years, he could consider it. The key was that as long as he was a god, he had to fulfill this job. This was also the reason why the ancient gods who were tired of it gave their clergy to their descendants or other successors. After becoming a god, Su Len still needed to choose a side. With his current strength, a god with weak divine power could only be regarded as a small role among the gods. He could be regarded as a god under other gods. In the Pantheon Temple, his seat was also the last few. In order to become a big shot or a main god in a god system, one had to be at least mid-level divine power. As for those large god systems, such as the main gods of the Elven god system, they must be at the level of great divine power. The most powerful gods in the Pantheon Temple were great divine powers. The ancient god of death, Jurgil, and Mother Gaia were at this level, but they had already retired. After becoming a god, he would gain allies and enemies at the same time. At that time, he would have to face other hostile gods. Moreover, compared to other gods, the god of thunder's priesthood did not have an advantage. It would not be easy for him to develop and grow. He also needed to be careful of those hostile gods. Perhaps one day, he would be tricked by them. Su Len did not want to live such a life, so instead of becoming a god, it was better to become an astral wanderer. Collecting divinity would not only make him stronger, but it would also give him the essence of immortality. After resting in the room for a day, Su Len recovered to his best state, then he left the seclusion room. At that time, Hathaway was still in seclusion. She had gained a lot this time and needed some time to organize it. After coming to the astrology platform and eliminating the abomination, the ancient ruins had become sullen spoils of war. It could be said that it was the biggest gain besides the divinity. A well-preserved floating space tower that could fly and a secret realm. "Welcome back, Tower Master," the voice of the tower genie sounded. "Where are Alex and Karina?" Su Len looked around. There was no one on the astrology platform, and he did not know where the two of them had gone. "Ms. Alex and Ms. Karina are repairing the elemental pool," the tower genie said. As it spoke, it directly displayed a projection image. In the image, Alex and Karina were in the basement of the wizard tower. "It seems that they are not slacking off." Sulen nodded. By the way, Tower Genie, did the former tower master leave any treasures or other magic props in this tower? Sulen suddenly thought of something and asked. I'm sorry, Tower Master. The previous Tower Master was arrested for violating the rules of the Supreme Arcane Parliament and conducting dangerous research. When the previous Tower Master was arrested, all his wealth and magic tools were taken away by the Supreme Arcane Parliament, so there is nothing left here, the Tower Genie said coldly. Sulen shook his head in disappointment. Sure enough, I was greedy. A floating space tower is worth at least hundreds of millions of kinnar. What else can I ask for? Soon, Sulen sorted out his thoughts and continued to ask the Tower Genie about the Wizard Tower and the Secret Realm. Tower Genie, how many golems are there in the Wizard Tower now? There is a golem legion in the Wizard Tower, including 2 diamond golems, 2 advanced magic construct golems, 500 steel golems, 1,000 rock golems. So many, I'm rich. After hearing the Tower Genie's words, Sulen's eyes turned into the shape of Kinnar City. A whole golem legion, how many Kinnar City would it take to produce this many golems? But before he could get excited, the Tower Genie's next words made Sulen's mood slowly sink. However, because of the lack of energy and maintenance, now the Golem Legion has been sealed. Many of the golems have aged and damaged, and some of them have lost the value of repair. Moreover, many of the golems that can fight were destroyed in the Tower Master's attack not long ago. Now about 10% of the golems in the Wizard Tower are intact. I knew it. Suddenly falling from heaven, Sulen's face was a little gloomy. 2 advanced magic construct golems have been damaged, but the diamond golems are intact. The advanced magic construct golems are damaged? How? Sulen asked in surprise. The Tower Master destroyed them himself. The Tower Genie's cold voice echoed in the astrology platform, and at the same time, a video was projected. It was the scene of Sulen attacking the Wizard Tower. 2 advanced golems that were obviously different from the steel golems were destroyed by Sulen and Hathaway. Okay. Seeing this scene, Sulen was a little embarrassed. Because the 2 advanced golems lacked energy and maintenance, one of them was directly destroyed by Hathaway's disintegrate spell. The item destroyed by the disintegrate spell would lose its magical effect, and coupled with the lack of maintenance, this golem had lost the value of repair. The other one was slightly better. It was destroyed by Sulen's lightning spear, and could be repaired. The 2 diamond golems were preserved because the Tower Genie had insufficient energy to activate the guardian golems, but they still needed to be repaired. After all, after such a long time without maintenance, many of the internal parts had aged. Chapter 558. Although the legendary golems were powerful, they also needed to be maintained on time. The Wizard Tower had reached such a state that even the internal energy supply of the Wizard Tower could not be guaranteed. Naturally, the legendary golems could only be abandoned. Although some protective measures were taken when they were sealed, it had been too long after all. After some inquiries, Sulen learned that the secret realm had been emptied by the ancient arcanists. When the abomination was discovered, it was too powerful for them to kill it, so they sealed the abomination. The secret realm that sealed the abomination was abandoned. Only the Enigma and the floating space tower were left behind to suppress it. The entire secret realm was basically an empty shell. The arcanists' plan was to seal it for thousands of years until the abomination weakened to a certain extent. Then, they would kill it. But they never expected that before the abomination weakened, the Arcane Kingdom would go to war with the gods. After the war, the Arcane Kingdom fell apart. The secret land and the abomination of the god in the secret land had long been forgotten. They couldn't even take care of themselves, so who would care about the abomination of the god? It was also because of the good quality of the seal left by the Arcane Kingdom that it hadn't completely collapsed after thousands of years. Otherwise, it would have caused a catastrophe. However, although everything there had been moved away, the ancient arcanists still left behind a lot of things, such as the virtual library. In the core of the Wizard Tower, there was a virtual library of the ancient arcanists, which stored a lot of knowledge from the era of the Arcane Kingdom. Although it wasn't the best, after all, the owner of the Wizard Tower was only a high-level legendary. He didn't have a floating space city, and he wasn't a great arcanist. The core knowledge of the era of the Arcane Kingdom, such as the floating space city, the neutron star golem, the element fusion reactor, the element annihilation technology, and so on, didn't exist. However, although there wasn't the most core knowledge, the knowledge stored there was still very precious. In the core of the Wizard Tower, there was a complete set of floating space tower construction technology, half-bit wall development technology, the magical particle railgun 2-V generation technology, enigma weaving technology, the legendary golem technology, and so on. These technologies were not top-notch in the era of the Arcane Empire, but they were definitely top-notch in this era. Northern Town City was not as powerful as those old wizard organizations. Even though Sulen had opened a treasure chest and obtained a lot of powerful knowledge, it could only close the gap a little. However, with this virtual library, the Northern Wind Tower's knowledge was immediately filled up. They were not inferior to the most powerful wizard organizations in the world. The problem now was to absorb and fuse this knowledge as soon as possible. Only after absorbing and fusing this knowledge could this foundation be converted into strength. However, the most important thing right now was to repair the Wizard Tower as soon as possible. He checked the damage of the Wizard Tower from the Tower Genie. The most damaged part was the elemental pool. The energy circuit and rune engravings were also damaged. Some parts of the magic steel were severely rusted and needed to be replaced as soon as possible. Originally, if there was enough energy in the Wizard Tower would activate protection. These energy circuits were protected by mana and would not be damaged. Now, they could only replace them with new ones. Fortunately, the entire Wizard Tower was built with obsidian and was blessed with a permanent hardening spell. The structure of the entire Wizard Tower was strong enough. They only needed to repair the damaged parts to be able to use it again. A day later, Hathaway finally came out of the closed room. Seeing her in high spirits, it was obvious that she had fully recovered. "Hathaway, how do you feel?" Sulen asked with a smile. "Much better. The evil thoughts of the abomination have been cleaned up. I only knew about the power of the abomination from some records. After this encounter, I realized how terrible this monster is. Even if it has been sealed for thousands of years and its strength has fallen to the bottom, it is still so powerful. I can't imagine how powerful it is when it is in its heyday. No wonder it is called the Terminator of Civilization," Hathaway said with a look of lingering fear. Sulen smiled and said, "Powerful people leave behind many benefits. This time, we got 16 divinity crystals directly from the abomination. Together with the divinity on the god's corpse, it is enough to give all the divinity of a god with weak divine power." "So much?" Hathaway said in surprise. "That's right. With so much divinity, we must keep it a secret. If even a little bit of information is leaked, our northern town city will not be able to resist the churches of the gods," Sulen said with a serious expression. "Understood." Hathaway was shocked. She immediately understood that although the divinity harvested this time was rich, it could be the source of chaos if they were not careful. As for giving up, neither Hathaway nor Sulen had ever considered this point. Also, these divinities are contaminated with the chaotic consciousness of the abomination, Sulen continued. These chaotic consciousnesses must be completely removed before the divinity can be integrated. Also, you must be careful when integrating the divinity. You can't be greedy, I know. Hathaway made a face at Sulen. I was the one who told you about the research on divinity. Now you are lecturing me. I am reminding you to be careful. Sulen raised his hand and knocked on her head. By the way, Alex, Karina, and I have searched the ruins for the past 2 days. It is so clean that rats can run away. Sulen pursed his lips and said, when the Arcanists evacuated, they took away everything that could be taken away. I suspect that if they did not need the floating space tower and the enigmatic lock to suppress the abomination, this wizard tower would not have been preserved. As for those golems, they were deliberately left behind by the Arcanists to guard this place from being destroyed by others. Ah, doesn't that mean that we not only cleaned up the mess of the Arcanists, but also didn't get any benefits and came here for nothing? Hathaway couldn't help but say, these Arcanists are too stingy. Come on, the floating space tower, the secret realm, the enigmatic lock, the god's corpse in the basement, and the golems downstairs. These are not benefits. Alex couldn't help but say. These are props to seal the abomination. They had to leave them behind. How can it be considered a reward? Moreover, the things here are basically broken, and we have to repair them ourselves. Hathaway said with dissatisfaction. That was Sullen's true teaching. If the Arcanists were still alive, Sulen would definitely ask them for benefits. It's not that there are no benefits. The Tower Genie also keeps a virtual library, which contains a lot of technical information and various magic knowledge from the Arcane Empire. Is there a floating space city? Hathaway asked excitedly. What do you think? Sulen looked at her as if she wanted to eat sh*t. It's the end of the month. She's rolling on the ground begging for monthly votes. The kind that can't be kicked away. Chapter 559. Inside the Wizard Tower, Sulen, Hathaway, Alex, and Karina were repairing the Wizard Tower. With Hathaway's help, the speed of the repairs sped up a lot. Since there were no materials here, Sulen even went back to the northern town city to retrieve some of the materials stored there. On the way back, Sulen met the two monks again. They had not left and kept saying that they wanted to suppress the monsters in the ruins. How could Sulen let them go to the ruins? He directly rejected them. After sending the materials to the ruins, Sulen temporarily left. With Hathaway there, he did not need to worry about the ruins. He still needed to take charge of the construction of Deepwater City. During this time, the second batch of construction workers had already gone to Deepwater City. Other than that, the caravan of the northern town city had also gone to the southern countries to recruit craftsmen and sailors to try to build ships. There was also one more thing that he needed to do. He needed to use the hero recruitment token in his hand. After returning to the palace, Sulen took out the token and chose to use it. A light flashed. The hero recruitment token instantly lost its luster. Then, it turned into dust and fell from his hand. A breeze blew past, and it disappeared without a trace. Ding! The host has used the hero recruitment token. The effect of the hero recruitment token has been activated. In the next 3 days, 1 to 3 heroes will come to join you. Please accept them. The system's cold mechanical voice sounded in his ears. After hearing the system's reminder, Sulen called for the guards and told them to inform him if anyone came to join him. If he was not there, they had to treat those people well. When he came back, he would then go to the secret border. Sulen also obtained a nature crystal from killing the abomination of God. He planned to continue using it on the nature oak. After arriving at the secret border, Sulen went to the nature oak's small world with ease. After sensing Sullen's arrival, the nature oak gently shook its branches as if it was greeting Sulen. After not seeing each other for a while, the nature oak had grown taller, and its nature aura had become stronger. As soon as he arrived, Sulen saw a wooden house next to the nature oak. Just as Sulen was confused, Xanthi walked out of the wooden house. After seeing Sulen, she ran over excitedly. Sulen, you came to see me. Xanthi ran all the way to Sulen. Sulen reached out and hugged her and spun her around. Xanthi's light body was soft, and had a natural floral fragrance. After a while, Sulen put her down. Did you build this wooden house? Grandpa Tree built it for me, Xanthi said excitedly. Grandpa Tree? Sulen was a bit confused. Yes, that's him. Xanthi pointed at the nature oak. You can communicate with the tower? Sulen looked at Xanthi in surprise. Xanthi said shyly, "Not really, I can only feel some vague thoughts." "When did you feel it?" Sulen asked. "For a while." Xanthi shook her little head. "You've awakened your fairy bloodline." Sulen suddenly saw a pointed ear in Xanthi's light blonde hair. "When did you awaken?" "I don't know. I just lived here for a while. That day, I suddenly felt Grandpa Tree. From that day on, I felt some changes in my body," Xanthi said as she hugged Sulen. "After a while, my ears grew longer, and I felt that I was much stronger. Oh, I could also use spells." Saying this, Sandy waved her hand towards a plant beside her. Bloom. A green light flashed, and then something surprising happened. The plant immediately began to grow rapidly. In the blink of an eye, a flower bud appeared. Then, the flower bud grew rapidly and split open. Soon, a flower bloomed in front of them. Nature spells. Sulen's eyes lit up. "Is this your awakened ability?" "Yes, I can also use some illusion spells," Xanthi said proudly. She looked as if she wanted to be praised. "Great." Sulen smiled and rubbed her head. "Oh, you can take care of plants, right?" "Yes, my ability can make plants grow better, reduce pests and diseases, and accelerate their growth." Xanthi nodded. "Then from today onwards, you will be the chief planter of the botanical garden. Take some time to check out the magic herbs growing in this secret realm and give the winged ones some guidance," Sulen said happily. "Me?" Xanthi was so surprised that she could not close her mouth. "I can't. I have never planted any magic herbs before. Moreover, those magic herbs are so precious. If they die in my hands, it's okay. There are many magic herbs. I will take some out for you to experiment. Besides, you have to believe in your talent and trust my judgment," Sulen said with a smile. "Then. I will try." Xanthi nodded her little head. "But if I make a mistake or break those magic herbs, you can't be angry." "Don't worry, I won't be angry," Sulen said. Then, Sulen took out the nature crystal and used it on the nature oak tree in front of him. The light green divine power instantly merged with the nature oak tree. Then, the nature oak tree in front of them began to grow rapidly. The tree trunk became thicker and the whole nature oak tree continued to grow. In less than a minute, the nature oak tree in front of them had grown to a height of more than 60 meters. The branches and leaves were lush and the whole tree looked like a big green umbrella. The aura of nature in the surroundings became thicker and thicker. The surrounding plants grew rapidly in this aura. An aura of life surrounded this place. Did it level up? Sulen was surprised when he saw the changes in the nature oak tree in front of him. "Sulen, Grandpa Big Tree asked me to tell you that he is grateful for your help." "He has leveled up," Xanthi said happily. Sulen used Identify on the nature oak tree in front of him. Then, a message appeared in his mind. Wisdom Ancient Tree, a magical plant evolved from the nature oak tree. It is a unique plant in nature. It can give others nature spells. Living here can improve one's physique, increase one's lifespan, and purify one's bloodline. Skills: enlighten, all nature, purify, nature spells, etc. Has a low chance of producing the fountain of youth. Seeing this wisdom ancient tree, Sulen was very happy. With this tree, as long as he had time, he could create a group of druids. Seeing its abilities, Sulen planned to arrange for his two little maids to live here for a while. He believed that their elven bloodline would become thicker and their strength would increase. Chapter 560. Sulen was a little surprised by the wisdom tree's appearance, but it was also reasonable. After all, it had cost him 2 nature god crystals to complete its evolution. Looking at Xanthi's attributes, Xanthi had directly become a rank 1 creature after awakening her fairy bloodline. There were many types of fairies, but their strength was generally not high. For example, there was a fairy called a fairy that was about 20 centimeters in size. Their strength was generally at rank 1, and they were illusionary. Their attack power was very weak, and only the fairy queen was at rank 3. These fairies were not very strong, but because of their beautiful appearance and the fact that they could bring luck to people, they brought disaster to themselves. Back then, a large number of wizards had tried to capture these fairies. As a result, the remaining little fairies had to hide in places where no one would go. Although these fairies were not very strong, they were very good at hiding. In the forest, even if someone was 2 ranks higher than them, they would not be able to find them. Xanthi had awakened a kind of natural fairy bloodline. The strength of this fairy bloodline was at the 2nd rank. Only a few fairy queens could reach the 4th rank. The potential of this fairy bloodline was limited, but it could turn Xanthi from a weak woman without the strength to a 1st-rank warlock. This was already very good. The fairy bloodline's potential was limited, but Sulen had divinity. If there was no other way, he could let Xanthi absorb some divinity. Divinity was the most mystical power in the multiverse. It had the effect of turning something rotten into something magical. Breaking through the limits of a species was only one of its effects. The fairy bloodline was about the middle of the bloodline among the warlocks. It could not be compared to the dragon bloodline. However, this bloodline also had its benefits. For example, it had a very long lifespan. Fairies' lifespan was not less than elves, and fairies would not age. They were also very beautiful, so many female warlocks chose the fairy bloodline and became wizards. Sulen left Xanthi a 9 transformation golden pill and a set of books for her to learn from a wizard apprentice to an official wizard. He let her live and learn at the wisdom tree. This time, Sulen gave all the 9 turns golden pills he got to his women. A bottle of 5 pills was not enough. In the end, Hathaway and Chris were legends, so he didn't give them to them. Everyone else got 1 pill each. Sulen gave the time orb to Hathaway to use, and Sulen gave her a little divinity, but this required her to completely integrate the power of the Baler. Sulen planned to keep the advanced soul crystal to build the advanced legendary golem. As for the god's blood and god's bones, Sulen and Hathaway had discussed and decided to upgrade the storm halberd. God's blood and God's bones could be used to create divine weapons, but even the lowest grade divine weapons were not easy to create. There were very few divine weapons in the multiverse. Other than the fact that some of the materials were precious, there was also the fact that they required the most important thing, divinity. Only by imbuing the item with divine power could it be called a divine artifact. Otherwise, it could only be considered a magical item. One had to know that divinity was directly related to the power of the gods. Very few gods would do this. Of course, there were also some powerful magical items that were called divine weapons. These magical items were far more powerful than other magical items, such as the Lich Ring. It was said that this item was a magical item made by a lich who had lived for an unknown period of time. Although it was not a divine weapon, the power it contained was no less than a divine weapon. For spellcasters, it was even more powerful than a divine weapon. Another point was that although divine weapons were very powerful, they also had restrictions. Generally speaking, divine weapons that belonged to a god had to be used by the god's faction. In order to upgrade the storm halberd to a divine weapon, Sulen had to imbue it with divinity. As for directly using the divinity of the abomination, the chaotic and evil divinity in it would make the weapon something that could only be used by the chaotic and evil faction. Therefore, the best way was to extract the divinity from the abomination. As for upgrading the divine weapon, Hathaway had only made a preliminary plan. It would take some time before it could be carried out. Sulen now needed to absorb the divinity left behind by the abomination. He now had 10 points of divinity in his body, and the power of divinity brought about a qualitative sublimation. First, it was in the physical aspect. His body had become stronger and had some characteristics of a divine creature. The second was the sublimation of his soul. His soul had become stronger and had a trace of immortal power. Sulen and Hathaway could only say that their research on divinity was average. According to the existing knowledge, the demigod Lich was the one who had the most in-depth research on divinity. Perhaps the ancient arcanists had a deeper understanding of divinity. After all, those arcanists had fought against the gods in the end. It was impossible for them not to study the power of the gods. Su Len planned to learn more about the power of divinity before making a divine weapon. When Su Len returned to Northern Town, a guard hurriedly came to report that 2 middle-aged men had come to join him. After hearing the guard's report, Su Len knew that these 2 men should be the heroes he had recruited with the hero recruitment token. Su Len was in a good mood as he had recruited 2 heroes with the token. Although he did not directly reach the maximum value, he was not so unlucky as to only recruit 1 hero. Su Len waited in the study for a while, and the servant came in with 2 middle-aged men. One of the 2 middle-aged men had a weather-beaten face. His hands and feet were thick, and his clothes were a little shabby. His brown hair was a little messy, and he had a thick beard. There was a thick layer of calluses between his thumb and index finger. There was also a scar on his face, which made him look unusually ferocious. The other man was the exact opposite. This man was clean and tidy, and his temperament was polite. Although his clothes were not luxurious, they were neatly tailored. His blonde hair was also carefully trimmed. He looked like a noble. "Hello, Your Majesty. I am Barbassa. I am willing to fight for you." "Hello, Your Majesty. I, Holland, am willing to serve you." The 2 men saluted after seeing Su Len. Su Len asked them to sit down, and at the same time, he asked the servant to bring some wine and drinks. At the same time, he checked their attributes. Unexpectedly, these 2 heroes were actually Tier 4 powerhouses. It should be known that powerhouses of this level would receive preferential treatment in any organization or country on the continent. The conditions Su Len gave were much worse than the conditions of other kings. One had to admit that the system recruitment token was powerful. After a simple conversation, Su Len learned some information about the 2 men. The man named Barbassa was actually a pirate captain. Because he went ashore to rest and resupply, he was betrayed and finally came to the northern wastelands. The other man, Holland, was a fallen noble. Because the old king died of illness, and the new king took the wrong side during the ascension, he was openly and secretly suppressed. He could only leave and unknowingly came to Northern Town. Chapter 561. When he was in power, he did not show any mercy to his political enemies. Now that he had lost his power, his political enemies would naturally retaliate. And it would be 10 times or even 100 times the revenge. The Holland family was already in dire straits, and it was because of him that they were able to rise again. Now that he had lost his power, the family had fallen apart. If not for his strength, he would have escaped with his wife and children after seeing that the situation was not good. Grass would have grown on his grave. The arrival of these 2 heroes could be used to fill in the gaps in Deepwater City. The development of Deepwater City needed someone to preside over it. Holland was originally an assistant minister of the Kerbal Kingdom and was proficient in internal affairs. He was more than qualified to manage Deepwater City. Barbassa, on the other hand, could be the captain of the Deepwater port. As a pirate captain, he was proficient in navigation and knew the pirates' port and how to fight. Other than him, there was no other general in Northtown City who knew how to fight at sea. Moreover, although the sea merchants of this era were called merchants, they were actually part-time pirates who often robbed the ships of other countries at sea. Su Len was preparing to engage in maritime trade. A pirate captain would definitely save him a lot of trouble. After understanding the abilities of the 2, Su Len announced that Barbassa would be the captain of the Deepwater Port's fleet, in charge of fleet trade and combating pirates, and Holland would be the governor of Deepwater City. After accepting their allegiance, Su Len also saw the degree of their loyalty. Barbassa's loyalty was only 75, while Holland's was 80. Although they were not as good as the other generals under Sullen's command, their loyalty would increase after some time. With 3 legendary powerhouses around, they naturally knew what to choose. Of course, they still had to give the necessary benefits. Kinnar could not be left out. After all, they were all sponsored partnerships. With Holland and Barbassa, the development of Deepwater City began to accelerate. Sulen directly handed the construction of Deepwater City to Holland and the work of the shipyard to Barbassa. Although Barbassa was a pirate captain, he also had some understanding of shipbuilding. After all, as pirates, they often had to repair their ships themselves. Especially after seizing a ship, they had to modify it. They did not have a shipyard to work for them, so they had to do it themselves. Barbossa was very familiar with the route of the Southern Sea. After all, he was a pirate in the Southern Sea before. He was also familiar with the route to the Eastern continent. After all, they also needed an identity to hide, and they often went to the Eastern Sea route. Sulen was preparing to open up the sea route to the Eastern continent, so he could give it to him. In addition to building a fleet, the most important thing was to have qualified sailors. The Kingdom of Florence was located inland, and it was very difficult to recruit sailors. They could only recruit some people who could swim for training. After all, the inland river and the sea were two completely different environments. Now, while building the ship, he had Barbossa train these people. If there was a Navy-Army SEAL, Sulen could directly recruit people to train the Navy. Unfortunately, he had opened so many treasure chests, but he had not obtained a Navy-Army SEAL. In order to strengthen the connection between Deepwater City and North Town, Sulen and Hathaway purposely set up a teleportation circle in Deepwater City. They then connected it to the teleportation circle in North Town so that the two places could be teleported directly. The planning of Deepwater City was very different from that of North Town. As a commercial port, it must be convenient for transportation. After a period of construction, some houses had been built in Deepwater City. Some of these houses were for workers to live in, and some were for warehouses to store materials. Because the city was close to the sea, the climate was humid, and it often rained here, so the city's drainage facilities must be strict. At the same time, the city's terrain must be the highest in the surrounding area. Sulen did not want the whole city to be flooded when the tide rose. In addition to these, because the city was designated as a commercial city, the houses inside were different from other cities. All the houses in Deepwater City had 2 or more floors. Usually, the first floor would be a shop, and the second floor would be a residence. The drainage around the residence also had to be planned, and the roads were all according to the standards of North Town. There were 5 roads in the city, one of which was directly connected to the port. The width of the road had also increased from 4 meters to 10 meters. Once the commercial road was successfully opened, Deepwater City would definitely become a trade hub. If they still planned according to the 4-meter road, it would be very congested. In order to prevent congestion, Sulen planned to use 2 roads, one out and one in. They would go out from the east gate of the city and enter from the north gate. This way, they could reduce congestion as much as possible. Deepwater City's harbor also needed to be built larger. Because Deepwater City was located on the southeast coast of the northern wilderness, the climate here was still somewhat cold. Although it wouldn't freeze in winter, there were often strong winds and waves, which led to the need to build a ring of breakwaters outside the harbor. In addition to the waterproof, Deepwater City also needed to build a lighthouse. As a port city, a lighthouse was indispensable. In this era, navigation technology was limited, so a lighthouse was very important as a building to guide the direction of ships at night. Now, there were almost 10,000 slaves working in Deepwater City. A large part of them were captured by Boulder's army. According to Sulen's plan, at least 50,000 people were needed to build Deepwater City in 1 to 2 years. With so many people, North Town could not transfer them, so they could only grab people from the wilderness near the sea. Originally, the surrounding wilderness also needed to be cleaned up. Sulen did not want to let these monsters affect the safety of the city. Carts of bricks were unloaded from the ships, which were transported from North Town. After several cleaning of the Red Sand River, there were no longer any water monsters blocking the way. Ships transported all kinds of materials. Deepwater City did not have a brick factory, so they could only transport from North Town. Fortunately, water transportation was very convenient. After carefully inspecting the construction of the city, Holland immediately went into work and began to methodically instruct the slaves to build. In order to make these slaves work hard, Sulan also prepared a lot of food. Although it was only potatoes and fish, it was very good for the slaves. Among these slaves, there were many kobold and gnoll supervisors. North Town already had a mature plan to enslave these monsters. After Barbassa arrived, he directly took a group of newly recruited sailors to the shipyard. During this period of intense construction, a small sailboat had been built. Barbassa planned to use it to train the sailors first. However, for safety reasons, Sulan also gave them some underwater breathing potions. Chapter 562. The construction of Deepwater City proceeded in an orderly manner under Holland's command. Boulder led the army to clear out the various monsters around the city. Barbassa was leading a large group of newbies to practice swimming. Swimming in the sea and swimming in the river were two completely different experiences. The waves in the sea were strong, and those who had not been trained could be hit by a wave and never get back up again. Hurry up, you bunch of weaklings. Weren't you all proud before? How come you've all become soft-footed after a big wave? Barbassa held a bottle of rum in one hand and a rope in the other as he pointed at the sailors on the ship and scolded them. Although the ship was swaying, Barbassa was walking as if it was flat ground and did not sway at all. Get up, don't pretend to be dead. Hurry up and control the sail. If you don't want to go to the bottom of the sea to feed the fishes, then get up and control the ship immediately. The wind and waves rolled, and the entire sea was like a pot of boiling water. A small boat was rolling in the sea, and a 4-meter-tall wave hit it. The entire ship was immediately lifted up and plunged into the water. Just as the ship was about to sink to the bottom of the sea, it was lifted up by the sea in the next second. The ship rocked back and forth in the sea, but it remained standing. Soon, the wind and waves passed, and the sea returned to normal. Hurry up and get up. Look at your vomiting. Hurry up and clean the deck. Barbassa said as soon as the storm passed. The sailors on the ship were dizzy from the fall, and their vomit was everywhere. Then, under Barbassa's urging, the pale sailors endured the discomfort and cleaned up. Don't think that this is a small matter. When sailing at sea, you must ensure that the ship is clean. If you don't want to get sick, remember to maintain hygiene. Also, you must maintain balance at all times. The enemy will not let you go just because you fell. Alright, rookies, this is your first lesson after boarding the ship. More cruel training awaits you in the future. Cherish the good times now. I hope that I can still see you when it's over. Northern Wasteland, Northgard City. An endless stream of merchants entered the city in an orderly fashion. Although Northtown City had only been established for a few years, it had quickly developed into a bustling metropolis due to the local specialties and the continuous influx of immigrants. The Pearl of the Northern region was very famous in the human kingdoms. Almost every merchant knew about this new trading city. Merchants with stout faces could be seen bargaining everywhere. Occasionally, they would even say thank you to Lady Joaquin, and then use their silver tongue to get the other party to lower the price. Northern Battlefront City had become an important trade center in the north. The wine, paper, sugar, spices, and all kinds of enchanted materials and potions produced here were very popular on the continent. As long as they were transported back, they could make at least double the profit. Surprisingly, the fastest-growing temple in Northern Town was neither the Church of Wisdom nor the Church of the Lord of Dawn, but the Church of the Lady of Wealth. This was the most prosperous trading city in the northern lands. Every day, a large number of merchants would come here. Almost all of the merchants who came here would go to the Temple of Wealth to pray that they could become rich. The merchants were the believers of the Lady of Wealth. Every transaction here was worth at least 1,000 kinnar. The monthly tax revenue of Northern Battlefront City now exceeded that of Cult City, an important city in the north. The merchants would go to the temple of the Lady of Wealth to pray, and basically, they would offer some money. The last time Su Len went to the Temple of Wealth, the walls of the temple were actually gilded. It was said that this was just a basic practice of the Temple of Wealth. At the most extravagant time, they would gild the entire temple with a layer of gold. It was said that in the City of Wealth, the temple was not only gilded, but even the entire city would be painted with gold paint. The whole city looked golden. Of course, with the growth of wealth, there were countless filth hidden on the smooth surface of the City of Wealth. All kinds of darkness grew in the corners. Don't expect the nobles and officials to have much integrity. In their eyes, integrity and bottom line were far less tempting than the shiny kinnar. Even with the power of the Temple of Wealth's restriction, there were still unknown corpses in the sewers of the City of Wealth. But in northern Battlefront City, this situation had been completely eliminated. Sullen's control of the city was amazing. He would never allow any gray corner in the city to compete with him for wealth and control of the city. A large number of soldiers patrolled the city every day. Anyone who violated the laws of northern Battlefront City would be arrested. Prancing Horse Tavern. This was one of the best taverns in northern Battlefront City. The owner of the tavern was very smart. He came here when northern Battlefront City was developing, but he did not get a license to trade in white sugar. However, the merchant was not disappointed. Instead, he found another way to open a tavern here. He used his connections to buy a lot of beautiful female slaves from other cities to provide services for the merchants who came and went. The first time he ate crabs made him a lot of money. His Prancing Horse Tavern also became a place where many merchants lived. At this moment, a large group of drunkards, tourists, mercenaries, and adventurers were chatting and laughing loudly. On a small stage in the middle of the tavern, a few female slaves who were dressed very sparingly were posing. This was a reserved program in the tavern. The owner of the tavern was very good at doing business. Everyone liked free performances. As long as these people were aroused, they would spend money to enjoy it even if you didn't say anything. Next to them, a bard was looking at the stage with a depressed face. These LSP only cared about watching the performance. Who would order his songs? He was too careless. He originally thought that the Prancing Horse Tavern was popular and wanted to make a lot of money. In the end, no one asked him to sing. A dwarf with a loud voice was drinking a local specialty of vodka. He looked drunk, but he was still shouting that he wanted to arm wrestle with another dwarf. A halfling stood at a table not far away. Although he was dead drunk, he had just knocked down a thief who wanted to steal his wallet. This sword is 30 feet and 1 inch long. It weighs 2 pounds and 3 ounces. It was tempered into steel and quenched into a sharp edge. 3 years ago, I killed a gnoll in Neverwinter. A dwarf master forged it and gave it to me. At this time, a warrior pulled out the long sword with a clang. It was cold and the sword was shining. It was indeed a good sword. The noisy atmosphere suddenly became strangely quiet. Everyone's eyes were focused on him. The man's expression was cold, and there was a murderous look in his eyes. After looking around, he said coldly, "Only 30 kinnar." You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.